to the pylon. Harrison's got it. Flag out. Touchdown signal.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
End around to Neighbors. Has a crease. Malik Neighbors down the sideline. Stays in bounds with a cutback. House call. Another LSU touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Millen, ball comes loose, and it's going to be an incomplete pass. No, it's not whistle dead. It's still alive. Turner is going to waltz into the end zone for a touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Texas brings pressure. Duggan backpedals, lofts to the end zone, wide open. Johnson, touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Pokey Wilson in motion. It's Benson. Benson, his second touchdown tonight. 15 yards for Trey Benson.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. Just after 3 o'clock, we take you up until 6. Florida and TCU are headed to the seventh inning at the College Baseball World Series in Omaha. It is 2-1. Florida leads TCU. They head to the seventh. Tonight, of course, you have Wake Forest and LSU. LSU needs to win to force an extra game. TCU needs to win this afternoon to force an extra game. And Landry Burdine, who's a sideline reporter for TCU football, is going to join us today, but also very much prolific when it comes to baseball and possibly his reactions to whether TCU extends it for another day or their season is over. We'll also check in today with Brigham Young, Arizona, Cincinnati. We have to discuss the Rangers, and we will with Jared Sandler of the Rangers Radio Network. A call last night that I'm still scratching my head over, and just the fact it's been a heck of a run for them, just under 80 games into the season, plus John Machota. All right, so Bill Hancock, long time. He's really done quite a bit. He's run the NCAA men's basketball tournament. He was a part of the BCS when it started, and he's been the executive director of the college football playoff, stepping down at the end of the 24-25 season. He'll step down next February, a year from February, has been in the role since the college football playoff launch. Now, there's a lot of good things that have happened. There's also some things that are eye-opening, but I'll never forget, Craig, you and I, we, along with everybody else, were at Big 12 Media Days, and I asked him about the college football expansion as far as the playoff, and would the rest of the country be zoned in if, in fact, there were just a couple of conferences of 16 to 20 teams? Remember what his answer was?
Yeah, I remember. He was pretty matter of fact that, they would watch anyways, that even if Cincinnati or Baylor or Oklahoma State or, whoever wouldn't be a part of the party that you assume would be held if that's the direction that everything goes, they would all watch anyways. And I can tell you right now, I may watch a bit, but I would not watch nearly as much, and it wouldn't be because there were fewer options. It would just be because I would have less interest, because it would be the NFL is what it would be. It might be a larger NFL. It might be, slightly different in maybe some of the ways it operates, but for all intents and purposes, it would be a super college football league or NFL light and a minor league system more so than it is now. When most people hear that and they either go yeah, that's awesome because they want that idea because they're a Michigan fan or an Ohio State fan, and that sounds good to them because they'll be invited and, they have no threat whatsoever of never being a part of that. I think, there's 100 other schools, probably more, that go, wow, that would suck because there'd be a lot of people out there who would suddenly not have a team in the mix of the, top tier of college football. And, I don't know how that would trickle down and then hurt everybody else below that as well, and even in the, FCS and so on. So, he didn't seem too concerned by those concerns. And not because he doesn't think it's going to happen, but because he just didn't think it would be a big deal. And they would get their viewers anyways, and it wouldn't matter. And he probably is, to some extent right. If you put Ohio State, Penn State on, people are going to watch because naturally, whether the casual fan watches or not, there's, bound to be a couple million people more than that are going to tune in for that game. So, yeah, you got all the big brands. You're going to have, people watching. But I do think it would take quite a bit out of the whole machine of college sports and all of the fun of it. But, he didn't seem to care. He didn't seem to care. And it was really kind of a weird answer, just how flat he was with saying it. Like it wasn't bothered by the idea of that. And I don't know, kind of rubbed us the wrong way, especially at that time because it was in the midst of all the what the hell's going on right now with Oklahoma and Texas and what just happened and trying to sort through people wondering if the Big 12 was going to survive. And, we've seen all the stuff that's happened since then. So, yeah, at the time it was very eyebrow-raising comment. And that's kind of my memory of him, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. It was very a matter of the fact that no matter what, even if there were 25 to 40 teams that were a part of the next level, and if you're a part of those fan bases, you're fine. But I wonder, I asked the question about the rest of the country. Would they get eyeballs? Sure. They do when they play in the big bowl games and against each other during the year. But if it did not include, let's say, 2/3 of the country when it comes to college football, would it be that way? That's what I remember. Otherwise, nice guy. He's a lobbyist. Paul actually sent a text about an hour or so ago about seeing the story. He was stepping down, and he's not real happy about Bill Hancock being a lobbyist. He's lobbying for the college football playoff. That's his job. That's what he does. And he will retire. So he's got this year and next, and then retires by February of 2025. I have no idea who would replace him. Haven't even really thought much about that. Meanwhile, Baylor got a commitment, a running back, Joshua Dodds. Committed. He's from Tidehaven High School. Joseph Dodds, committed from Tidehaven High School. Had a big numbers last year. Class 3A in Texas. Apparently Texas Tech, Missouri, among others, were interested. I didn't look at his actual offer list, but he committed to Dave Aranda and Baylor. So Baylor adds a running back to their class of 2024.
Yeah, had Texas Tech, Cal, Houston, Missouri, among some others. I know that Tech just got a running back commit, so maybe that eliminated them from the choices. Doesn't really matter. They still offered. So did Stanford. So did UTSA, who usually has pretty good evaluations. So yeah, that's an offer list that's got a lot of regional flavor and some interesting little additions like a Stanford that tells you that he's got his grades in order and he's got his probably life in order pretty well. At the same time. So, great pickup, nice offer list. The running back group is starting to really grow and kind of solidify, and I'm very excited to see, what they look like this season because last year is basically the Richard Reese show. He's a true freshman having to take the bulk of carries for several weeks in a row until he just couldn't anymore because he was a true freshman who was breaking down, and he's not a guy who's big to begin with, but that's what he was forced into because of injuries pretty much right out of the gate, which is, another part of the story of last year that kind of gets glossed over, but it's because it happened so early on that it was like Tay McWilliams gets hurt, boom, right away basically, and then here's Richard Reese kind of thrown into the fire, and he had, some help, but he was the feature back basically, and so he didn't have a lot of it, and he needed it. He didn't need to be the feature back as a true freshman out of Belleville, but he was, and so you add in Dominic Richardson. You've got Bryson Washington as well as far as, a young guy coming in, and, eventually Joseph Dodds will be around. And I know they won't all be like Richardson will, move on, whatever you, but I like the way the running back group has been set up for this year. And now you start looking beyond this year, and that looks like a spot that's going to be okay for the foreseeable future. And that's good to have kind of locked down.
All right. Arizona State class of 2025. It's a while, but Dillingham and what he's doing in Tempe, they picked up a commitment. There you go with a class of 2025 four-star quarterback who committed to them. And there you are with that particular story. So, again, he's trying to build something there, and it seems like he is. So good for him as they get their quarterback for 2025. Yesterday, Joseph Duarte, we've had him on many times. He covers Houston. A couple of nuggets from him, including this one. Before there was kind of a Big 12 event in Houston celebrating eventually their entry, announcing, this was yesterday afternoon, announcing that they had reached 25,000 season tickets, and it's all relative because of what they have sold in the past. So, again, they continue climbing when it comes to season tickets for their first year in the Big 12. And then also this, Kelvin Sampson there. Kelvin Sampson, of course, recently just got himself a nice extension and raise as he has earned, saying that this is the best job I've ever had. And, of course, he's been at Indiana, Oklahoma, elsewhere. And Kelvin Sampson right now seems to be in a really good spot with the University of Houston, and so is the University of Houston. There's also this about Penny Hardaway. Speaking of college basketball, Penny Hardaway, this is from Jason Moons, suspended for the first 3 games of the upcoming season due to recruiting violations committed during the 21-22 academic year. Remember, Memphis was under investigation, and then there was kind of a ruling that because whatever role it was with Hardaway, the possibility of recruiting or payments or whatever it was, he got pretty fortunate with that based on the law, but he's suspended for the first 3 games of the 23-24 season. Memphis, of course, with big hopes with Penny Hardaway back yet again as their head coach.
Yeah, that's been. It's not like he's just there. I mean, he's kind of settled in, and that's been sort of a weird journey to watch. Not quite, what maybe was expected when you just hear the name originator. Like, oh, it's like the Dion thing. Like, oh, Dion's in Colorado. Like, let's go. Penny's at Memphis. Like Penny Hardaway, and there's a lot of nostalgia involved. But yeah, had some trials and tribulations, some successes there as well. But that's not a good look, obviously, and a lot of it's. When you get busted for recruiting these days, it's like, what do you even like? How can you not just recruit on the up and up? You know what I mean? Because of just how kind of more free and loose things seem to be, at least on the surface. But that's tough for him. I mean, it's 3 games, so that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, stay away from those recruiting violations, and you won't have to worry about things like that. And I don't know how much you really have to violate recruiting rules these days to ultimately get what you want. Maybe it's a different breed in basketball or something. I don't know. I need to read more into what exactly, that all went into that. But on the Houston side of things, I mean, it's great for them. It's been a good week news-wise as far as counting down to the Big 12 and having a good amount of season tickets that have been sold, and just the solidification of Kelvin Sampson as their basketball coach entering the league and for the foreseeable future. He's had them at the top of the rankings now for what seems like a while, really, at this point. I mean, especially these last couple of years. I mean, Houston's been right there firmly in the mix and in the tournament talk and in the Final Four and potential national championship talk at times. So he's got a good thing going there. They shouldn't have too much of an issue rolling into the Big 12 and competing. Just be that night after night kind of thing that you wonder about, instead of going from Temple to UCF to Tulsa or whatever. It's like, okay, Kansas and Baylor and Texas Tech and, that instead. And so, I think that he'll be fine. Maybe there's a little bit of a time period where it takes some adjustment, but he's a great coach, and that's an area that you're not really concerned about with them and their move to the Big 12.
Some of the chat room, someone mentioned that they're excited about UCF entering the Big 12, and, of course, they'll be a fan of theirs except 1 week when they're playing home against Baylor. July 1st is right around the corner. I know for a fact that Chris Pessman, the University of Houston AD, will be on with us next Tuesday, and we hope to have the ADs of Cincinnati, also Brigham Young, and also UCF again at some point next week. It's the week before they are officially involved. UCF picked up a commitment to transfer from Oklahoma. We mentioned that yesterday, but thank you, UCF Realist.
Yeah, it was good for them. I mean, I don't know what happened in Norman. He was there for a short amount of time. But, there's so much movement these days. It could be any variety of reasons. But, the Sooners' potential loss, I guess, is the Knights' gain. So, yeah, that's awesome. The transfer portal can be an amazing thing. Sometimes it can also be a frustrating thing. But it certainly was a great thing for them in that regard. And, I'm thinking, like a lot of people, that they're maybe the team that is kind of – at the top of the new four in terms of what's expected football-wise this season. Expectations-wise, they seem to be kind of the buzzy team that people think can adjust the quickest, at least this upcoming year. That remains to be seen, obviously, but that's good because it means there's a little bit of buzz for them coming into the league, and you can get excited about that.
In fact, Katie Raiders goes, I listened or watched a UCF podcast today. They're picking UCF. She calls it kind of a homer podcast, and picking UCF with an easy 9 wins. We'll see, Katie Raiders. All right. Confidence is
look
great.
Back at their schedule, and
TCU, Florida, by the way, head to the 8th inning as TCU went in order. I believe it was in the 7th. They go to the 8th, 2-1 Florida.
Well, we'll find out real quick. And I don't know whose podcast. That's totally fine. If they turn out to be right, that'd be great. But they should start off probably 3-0. That Boise State game, don't quite know what that'll be like on the road, but they should beat South Carolina State. They should beat Kent State. Very well should beat Boise. You got Villanova as well. So, yeah, but they're going to be right out of the gates with K-State and Baylor and OU there and their fourth opponent.
Don't they play Miami this year? Is it UCF that's playing Florida or Miami this year?
No, I think you're talking about 2024.
That's right. Okay.
For Florida, where they're playing all the Florida schools.
Provo, go ahead.
But yeah, they're going to be in Lubbock. If they get 9 wins, man, that's going to be one of the biggest stories in all of college football. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Provo Cougar fan, 64,500 seats, and you can't get a ticket this year. Talking about Brigham Young as they've sold out their season tickets for the upcoming year. And of course, that's not a surprise at all. Cougar Tracks will always root for the Big 12 teams the weeks they're not playing, of course, Brigham Young. Thanks for the feedback, both the 2 Brigham Young chat room comments here in today's chat.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to the the game in Provo for Baylor last year, but heard nothing but great things from everybody who was there. A lot of people who said that was one of the best, if not the best, road venues that they had gone to. So I'll definitely have to do that at some point in time. Probably have to maybe set it up to make a trip a year or something like that to one of the new 4 schools. And they would certainly be a venue that I want to go to because I heard nothing but great things, and great to hear that there's, a good amount of people excited and ramped up and buying season tickets at all these places. That's great news, and that's what you expect when you have a big jump up in your conference and all that's been talked about.
Sir, blah, blah, blah. A couple of quick ones here. Recruiting violations still exist, and then here's the one that I thought was pretty interesting. It's about the speed limit. Where did it go? Getting a recruiting violation these days, this is from Provo Cougar fan, is like getting a ticket going 68 in a 65-mile-per-hour zone on the interstate.
Yeah, that was puzzling to me, too. And there's just been so much about Penny. I don't really know where this stemmed from because I don't follow that closely. Memphis or Memphis basketball, Penny Hardaway, but apparently it took place a couple summers ago during some in-home visits where he was actually here visiting a player in Texas who was a junior at the time, and I guess it allowed him to conduct in-person visits, but the NCAA said that the in-home visits gave Memphis a recruiting advantage over other compliant programs. So I guess the way that he went about overlooking the rules was his undoing there. But yeah, it happened a couple of years ago. But you're still right. If you see somebody getting popped for recruiting violations, it makes you scratch your head and go, what would you even be doing? Because you can do so much above board now that it's just, what's the point really in even messing with getting into trouble?
All right, we'll do a super chat here. I'm gonna bring it up from Chris. We break to stay on time. Greg Rubell from Brigham Young, voice of Brigham Young, will join us at 3:40, so we'll get a couple of breaks in before that. $5 super chat. Chris, your question yesterday got a tremendous amount of response in the chat room and also with us. Guys, recruiting is the lifeblood of any football program. Which positions have been the strongest for Baylor, and which positions do they struggle with? We'll come back and, Chris, answer that question. This is 365 Sports, and we appreciate you. We're on today until 6. We jump in with Brigham Young, Cincinnati, TCU today, along with much more, and this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI, idealmri.com. In the Central Texas marketplace, they can do 2 things for you. One of them is save you a ton of money because their MRIs are $497 or less every single time. Not $497, then $1,500. The average MRI is $1,100. Theirs is $497 every single time, and it can be less. They will help you file the insurance papers. And the other part that's great is if you have a knee that's been sore, achy, it's not the same. Maybe you have damage in that knee. Your orthopedic surgeon or doctor want a better look. Maybe it's your lower back, your shoulder, ankle, where it might be, they will find it because they have a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I've been in it 4 times, and it is fabulous. And you will get the images very quickly. In the portal, your doctor can pick them up quickly, too. It's idealmri.com. Dr. Rob Maxey is one of the partners, and what they've done is amazing, helping you save money and also helping you find out the evidence of what is hurting you where you almost can't function, or maybe you can't. Idealmri.com. I love sharing stories of our sponsors and their stories about customers. Dr. Rob Maxey, a partner with Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco, sent me a couple of different stories this year that really stood out. There was a woman who called saying that her insurance was making her go to the hospital for an MRI, and it would cost her $1,600 for the knee MRI with insurance. She called Ideal MRI and was distraught. When they told her the price, she was elated and relieved. She got her exam, the scan, the results for her doctors. So the doctors had it available for the appointment. Her exam was interpreted by a fellowship-trained world-class muscular skeletal radiologist. Her doctor has access to the images online immediately, just like the doctors I have received images online when I've had an MRI with Ideal MRI. And $497. Save the patient $1,100. That's just one of the stories. There was also a patient that needed an MRI, but her deductible had a $6,000 hit on it. The hospital said they would charge $2,000. She went to MRI, Ideal MRI, cost her $497, saved her nearly $1,500. The insurance is also something they will work on for you. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's Ram season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas and save big on Ram trucks. Now offering 10% off MSRP on a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or get 2.9% for 72 months. The choice is yours. Plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, back to Chris's Super Chat. Chris, thank you very much. Recruiting is the lifeblood of any football program. Which positions have been the strongest for Baylor, and which positions do they struggle with? Well, obviously, they've had the turnover at quarterback, and they did have the decommitment after not having a quarterback the year before with Novosad. But since that time, they've added Sawyer Robertson. They've added a commit for 24. They've added a commit for 25. So at least it appears as if they've kind of solidified that. Craig, which ones have they, let's say, struggled with first?
I think, they've solidified that position, but they struggled with that position still. I'd say quarterback. In terms of getting high-profile guys, they haven't done that, if you really think about it, in quite some time. I mean, it's been a few years, really. Sawyer Robertson, if they had plucked him out of high school as a 4-star, would have been one story, but getting him out of the transfer portal is a different story. It's been a lot of 3-star type guys. That's why there was a lot of hype around Austin Novosad, was that here's this big Elite 11 4-star guy. Now, granted, they had the Kyron Joneses and
Jacob Zeno. So a few years ago, they were getting 4-star type Elite 11 players, and those guys never saw the field. So I'm kind of torn on that one, because technically 3 years ago you said, hey, they're getting the guy they're supposed to get every year who's at a big major summer camp with all the other national prospects, but they just are blocked by who's in front of them. And then that's suddenly turned into the last couple of years of they'd pray for a 4-star quarterback out of high school. You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe that's in the no, right now that's got to be a struggle. That's got to be a struggle right now, I think. And there are very few places UT's got themselves set up. Oklahoma was in the catbird seat for a long, long time, and they had Caleb Williams for another couple of years, and then, of course, he transferred last year. But it's going to be hard to have a quarterback room that's filled with veteran experience, and who else is coming through the pipeline. It's hard to do that. There are some that have been able to do that, and Baylor's hoping to get back to that point.
Yeah, so with them, I think at quarterback it's probably somewhere in the middle. Maybe I wouldn't put that as the biggest struggle, but it's up there. Struggles elsewhere. I think they've been okay on the O-line. I think the receiver's been fine. They haven't gone and gotten a Micah Hudson, but who does typically, and that's why it would be such a big deal for Tech if they're able to land him. So I'd say. I'm trying to go over it in my head, really. I'd say tight end's been a strong position as far as their recruiting goes. I think running back's been a strong position as far as their recruiting goes. I think they've been pretty okay on the O-line, nobody that's super flashy. But I just feel confident that Eric Munoz is that right? Mateos, thank you. Eric Mateos is getting the guys that he wants. I don't worry too much about they got to land 5 stars on the O-line. So running back and tight end, feel good about. Quarterback, a little, I don't know. Everything else is kind of in the middle. Defensively, they struggled at linebacker. I think getting in guys consistently, and I think defensive backs have been a little bit of a struggle. But they're in a weird part right now where they're just sort of in between groups where we're seeing the last of the Rule guys have all faded out, and now it's the beginning of the Aranda guys. So it's kind of in a weird spot where you can't really give final grades on a lot of these early couple classes he's brought in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of like still like sort of wait and see on what's going to blossom. But, yeah, I'd say tight end, running back, D-line, I think they've been pretty okay. And then everything else is sort of in the middle or bad, I'd say quarterback and maybe the secondary and linebackers.
All right. So, Chris, thank you very much for the note there, and we do appreciate it. There's one I just saw this.
I'm trying to sort
yesterday's notes.
Transfer portal stuff as well. Like a lot of their guys are from the transfer portal, so it's like.
But you have to recruit them. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've done a pretty good job with the transfer portal. I mean, maybe the Siaki Ika one was. Lord of mercy, that gave him a couple of years at a position in which they just didn't have anybody like him.
I think I was coming at it from more of a high school perspective.
I agree.
Yeah, from a high school perspective, those are kind of what I would identify. But then, like, where it hasn't been super flashy at receiver, they've gone and gotten, like, Keytron Jackson in the portal. Where it hasn't been super flashy at D, they got Siaki Ika. So they balanced that out.
Waiting for the linebackers to see what they do this year.
Absolutely.
This year, the transfer linebackers they have from Liberty and also the one Josh White who's on campus from LSU. This is from Matt in D.C. Aranda won the Rule recruits over. They're all gone now. It's time to see if he can win with his recruits. And that's always, Rule had some players that were Bryles, et cetera, type recruits, even on the team that had the great run in 2018 and 19. Not many, but there were some, of course. I mean, from
Jalen Petrie.
Jalen Petrie, of course, the one that was the only one who had committed to Baylor, stayed with him when Matt Rule took over in 2017. Chris, great job. Great takes as always. Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for the super chat.
And that's a part of the deal. Like, Joey McGuire got Tyree Wilson, the benefit of him from Matt Wells' recruiting. Steve Sarkisian's getting the payoff of what Tom Herman did, right? So that you can go down the line of somebody who's relatively recent and had some success, and barring they've like completely flipped the roster like a Lance Leipold at Kansas type situation, there's always going to be some element of that. But to your point, now we are in that area where it is all Aranda guys now. I mean, it's going to be totally on his and his staff's recruiting and their development and their IDing talent that we're going to see in full force now because, it's all those guys. And that's really where the argument for the Baylor fan base, for those who choose to wonder about what the future holds, there are some that will tell you, well, yeah, he won the Big 12, but it was a lot of Matt Rule guys. And then there's some that say, yeah, but he developed those Matt Rule guys beyond where they were with Matt Rule. So you can,
and that's kind of the flavor anytime somebody has success.
Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah, they still were, no matter what. Someone had recruited them prior. But, if you could help them take it to another level, which they did, that helps too, just like Rule did, even if you look at 1-11. So there is a couple of notes. Brigham Young, got a couple of Brigham Young fans going early today. One of them is about their stadium, 67,000 strong. Kim, I saw you say something about the new stadium renovation after it's done. Texas Tech will be at how many capacity at AT&T Jones Stadium? 75,000? I what is it now, like 55, 60? I don't know that. I don't keep up too much with capacities, but I was curious about that. Kim, get on the chat if you don't mind, and we'll take a break here in about 3 or 4 minutes. Greg Rubell covers Brigham Young. We'll have him on here in just a second. Again, this is 365 Sports. In the studio today, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter is also with us here until we take you until 6 o'clock today. There was Georgia commit, high school star, Dylan Raiola, right? The number one quarterback in the class of 2024. He is transferring to Buford High School in Georgia. So he's leaving Chandler High School where he has been. He then moved to Pinnacle High School after the end of last season. And the Arizona Interscholastic Association was possibly handing down a 5-game suspension because of transfer policies. Raiola is now going to transfer to Buford High School in Georgia to end any of that possibility, and he'll play in the backyard of the team he's going to play for in college, at least who he's committed to in the Georgia Bulldogs. TCU, by the way, just tied the game up in the top of the 8th inning at 2-2 with a runner on second base and 2 outs.
Yeah, this follows, and I don't know how many instances there's been of this, but Oklahoma got a quarterback commitment from Kevin Sperry, who's a 2025 guy. He played at Rock Hill in Texas. He's transferring to Carl Albert up in Oklahoma. So this is the new thing now, I guess, where you transfer to a high school closer to the college campus if you're certain prospects. And I don't really know how to feel about that. I know we're in a far more global world than before, so I guess locality and, those types of things don't really matter as much to today's, high school athletes, and it's, not as important to represent the town you grew up in or whatever. Yep. I don't know that that's the case for everybody, but certainly for people who stand to make money, as 17, 18-year-old football recruits, this has now been 2 stories in the last 2.5, 3 days of high-profile quarterbacks that are moving closer to their future colleges. So that's very interesting. I guess that the associations are just gonna. I don't know what you like. Did mom get a job in Georgia all of a sudden? Like, how does that work exactly? Right. I don't know, but I guess there's no threat of having to sit out or anything, because why would you make the move to miss part of your senior year? So yeah, that's just something new that's occurring, I guess, and we'll see how I guess regular that becomes, but that's a couple stories, like I mentioned, that we've seen quarterbacks doing that now, and that's very interesting.
Clarification from Kim. He was talking about, he wasn't sure about the capacity. I know they had 67,000 or so for the Texas game. It seats 60. It actually will go maybe to 60 or 58 after the renovations. The Big Lubbock, thank you in the chat. I'm a Red Raider. Jones AT&T only holds 60, and it will go to 58,000 after the renovations because of that massive athletic complex they're putting in at the end of the stadium. So there you go with that. But you might, of course, have standing room only, and of course you'll have 5,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 that could add to that.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering where extra people are going to go, because that facility is pretty massive. It takes up a big chunk of your picture when you look at the renderings. It's like it's hard to miss that thing in the end zone. And so yeah, I was wondering where the extra seats were going to come from. But like you said, there'll be plenty of people crammed into suites and various areas and all of that. So yeah, good to know though. Didn't realize it's going to dip slightly, but it'll probably all even out in the end, and it'll look better than before and be great. And TCU, 1 out, men on first and second, bottom 8. They are threatening, man. They've been on quite the run here lately, but what a situation here between them and Florida.
They're trying to force another game if they win. We are expecting Landry Burdine to join us. He does sidelines for TCU football at about 4:20, but a lot of it may go on how this game lasts. He's also, as I mentioned, very much involved in TCU or college baseball. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from Greg Rubell. He's the voice of Brigham Young. We also have Jason Shear today a little bit later on at 5. John Machota from theathletic.com at 5:30. We have a full boatload. Chad Brendell in the 5 o'clock hour. And looking forward to hearing from Jared Sandler, great friend of the show. Rangers baseball last night in the call against the White Sox, but also just checking in on them as what they are, who they are after what has been a really nice first 70-plus games to the 2023 season. This is 365 Sports. I had a chance earlier today to have a conversation with Samantha Duvall, who's the marketing director at TexasBeefHouse.com. Joined by Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com, director of marketing. 4th of July. It's coming up. We've been through Father's Day, Memorial Day before that, and now you have 4th of July. What are a couple of specials, or maybe when people call, they can focus on the 4th of July weekend?
So we just got a new shipment of inventory in, so we are stocked back up on our briskets. We're stocked back up on our ribeyes. Of course, we've got hamburger patties, jalapeno and cheese patties. Those are one of our biggest sellers. Also put together what we call the grilling package, and it's a package that gives you sirloin, filet, hamburger package, regular patties, jalapeno and cheese patties, New York strip, and some of our Wagyu garlic links. They're fully cooked. You just throw them on the grill or put them in the oven.
It's pretty amazing, the growth of the business. TexasBeefHouse.com, just outside of Tylerman White House. Aaron Duvall, the owner, and we're talking to Samantha. To just be a part of this company and watch it grow, how impressed have you been in just these recent months or in the last year or so?
It's actually been pretty awesome watching us grow the last year. We started this company almost 6 years ago, and just by word of mouth, it has blown up our last year. We're now shipping to all the lower 48 states. We ship Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We also do local deliveries in our area within a 20-mile radius, and we're part of our farmers market every Saturday here.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of SicEm365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Grundhafer is normally with us on Friday, so not sure where that jumped into the pie. But we are joined by Greg Rubell, voice of Brigham Young Athletics, with us. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and 365 Sports. Greg, there will be July 1st here in just a matter of, a week and a half. What is the thought right now? As everyone knows, it's going to happen, Brigham Young. But what is the feeling as we get closer to that July the 1st, the official first day?
Yeah, the 10-day countdown is on, and BYU has a bevy of events planned in the week leading up to July 1st. A grand celebration, including a countdown celebration at 11:30 p.m. on the night of June 30th. So just outside the student-athlete building on the football practice fields, there will be an attendance-limited event from 11:30 to midnight. So when the clock strikes midnight and BYU officially becomes a member of the Big 12 Conference, it'll be kind of a Big 12 New Year of sorts as the celebration goes down, ending at midnight on that night. And then the next day, back on the practice fields, an afternoon-long celebration with all kinds of activities planned. And that just caps a week of events next week. And so a big build-up, a lot of preparation going into it, and a lot of cause for celebration.
Well, Greg, that's very cool to hear how much excitement there is being drummed up and generated, and just folks happy to be a part of the Big 12. I know that we probably discussed it before, and we have a lot of people who know about BYU and you know them over the years, but can you kind of explain maybe for folks who don't realize why this is such a big deal? Why is this such a big deal to be joining the Big 12 for BYU?
Well, I think for a number of years, guys, BYU and its fan base have kind of viewed the school and its athletic programs as P5 caliber, but without the P5 stamp, right? And whether it's attendance or facilities or the ESPN contract or national championships or national trophies like the Heisman, there are a lot of things BYU has done that says P5 caliber performance, P5 level visibility, P5 level respect from other schools and conferences, but you never really had that stamp of approval. You were out of the club, and there were some hindrances. Access was curtailed. If you're not a P5 member, there are some access issues. And yes, BYU had, you could argue, as good a chance as anybody else to find its way in, but the access wasn't as smooth as it is when you're, of course, a P5 member. And so it meant a lot. And yeah, there's a financial component to this. Fiscally, it's a big boost, but that was never really the overriding concern for BYU. When you decide to go independent, it's a gamble. And BYU did as well as it could do with that gamble. ESPN provided, a fiscal, not a lifeline, but truly a benefit of sorts to help BYU through that 12-year era of independence. And the Cougars did well for themselves. Again, this was not purely about finances, but clearly the finances are a part of the new equation and another sign of what P5 schools have come to expect when it comes to their ability to contribute funding to resources and still progress their programs at a level that keeps them competitive.
You know, I've always thought of them Power 5. I just have. Whatever the term might be, maybe it's from the days forever of them being a part of being independent, and I know they've been a part of other conferences. Do you feel like that they might be, as an athletic department, in the best shape among the incoming four immediately?
I would say yes, and I'll explain why. And first of all, your point is echoed by the fact that you'll recall, guys, in the last number of years, conferences began introducing their non-conference P5 quotas, right, for their football scheduling. And BYU got a rider into those, where those conferences and schools were saying, we'll count BYU as a P5 quota in that non-conference scheduling requirement. So BYU was already getting the respect of those leagues and programs by counting BYU as a school that goes toward that quota. So that's another example of where, BYU was viewed that way. We should also note that BYU is the only non-P5 team to win a national championship in football since World War II. Again, that kind of P5 visibility or P5 respect, even though it was back in 1984, it still counts. The P5 wasn't truly part of our vernacular back then, but the point is, if you go outside the P5 membership, BYU is the only one to do it since World War II. But now to your last part of your question, I think yes, because BYU's played an independent schedule for 12 years, which allowed the Cougars to play multiple P5s per year, more P5s than you would play as a traditional G5. And so BYU found itself playing 5, 6, and 7 P5 and opponents per year, every year as they ramped up independence. And so I think the on-ramp to the Big 12 is better for BYU than it might be for the other schools just for that reason, just for the fact they've played a steadier diet of P5 programs in the years leading up to the Big 12. Not to say that UCF or Houston or Cincy couldn't outperform BYU, but only that BYU's diet of P5 teams has been steadier than it has been for the other G5 schools coming into the season.
Greg, when it comes to the football team and the changes this offseason, change in defensive coordinator, change in personnel, what does it feel like in terms of the to-do list? Did Kalani Sitake basically nail everything he needed to? Is there a couple of things that maybe remain more of a what or we don't quite know yet? How would you sort of describe the attack of the offseason and what they were able to accomplish?
Well, bringing Jay Hill in is the headline of the offseason. Only one defensive coach was kept from the previous staff, and that's Tremor Guilford in the defensive secondary. Jay Hill leaves a head coach position, albeit FCS. He leaves a head coach position to become a coordinator with Kalani Sitake. Now, Kalani and Jay go back. They've had a long relationship. They were on the same staff at Utah together. And by the way, just if I could backtrack for a second, Kalani had that previous experience of going G5 to P5 with Utah. So he's done the ramp up once before, and he thinks that BYU's in a better spot than Utah was in terms of entering the P5 level for a lot of the reasons I just stated a minute ago. So Kalani's been through it before and knows what he's doing now. And I think having had that previous experience at Utah and going P5 to P5 helps Kalani and Jay in the build-up to this new entrance into the Big 12. But back to your point, Jay Hill comes in and what he has to do, and I think will do, is increase BYU's havoc rate. The Cougars just weren't making enough plays defensively. There were some things BYU did well when it comes to points allowed and the quote-unquote cliche bend not break philosophy. That works to an extent, but I think more plays had to be made by the defense, not just manage, but actually exert influence. And I think whether it's the pressure they didn't get up front or the plays that weren't made on the back end, BYU has to find a way to be a bit more disruptive team defensively, because on offense they took care of the ball very, very well. Under Aaron Roderick, BYU's been one of the best teams when it comes to turnovers lost. It's the turnovers gained BYU has to do a better job with, and then the overall disruption up front. And I think we've already seen with transfer portal additions and then the change in philosophy Jay Hill brings, the potential for BYU to be a much more disruptive and havoc-creating team on defense than they were last year.
Greg, the facilities. I know the stadium will, I believe, not next year, not this season, but after Texas and Oklahoma leave, it might be the largest stadium in the Big 12. There are others right there at the 60,000 mark, but most of them underneath of that. The facilities, the arena, the basketball arena is fantastic. Is that pretty much where they are with facilities, pretty set, or will the influx of Big 12 money help do some other things they want to do?
Well, I'm sure there are some refurbishments BYU has in mind, especially at football. It's a great stadium. It's 63,000 plus. It will be the biggest stadium once Texas and OU leave the league. And the Marriott Center will conversely be a large venue as well, with BYU and Kansas drawing annually the best crowds. I think you'll see year to year in the Big 12 as the Marriott Center is around 18,000. So venue-wise and size-wise, nothing BYU has to do to compete in the Big 12 because they're already there. I think what you are going to see again are ways to, kind of gussy up the venues and maybe increase the hospitality options and do that with some of the funds we could see pouring in the years to come. But from a pure venue availability and preparedness standpoint, BYU's right there. I think actually since BYU's accepted the bid, guys, you've seen a lot of images of whether it's LaVell Edwards Stadium or Miller Park, the baseball and softball complex, kind of find their ways onto social media and people saying, wow, what a view they've got there at BYU with the mountains in the backdrop, and it's of course on full display for those football games. And then the Marriott Center itself, although it's an indoor venue, is as impressive a venue as they come in college basketball. And, perennially, they're a top 15, top 20 team in attendance and leading the West or second in the West every year in terms of college basketball attendance, topping Pac-12 teams in the area. So I think what BYU's done, and it has done with its venues, stands itself in good stead to compete and be right there with the best of the Big 12.
Greg, I know that they've had so many great teams that have come through there that, it's not like, oh, wow, they're playing this team for the, this big team for the first time ever. I mean, the BYU's used to playing some very good teams, but looking at that first Big 12 schedule, was there anything that necessarily jumped out to you or the fan base? I'd have to imagine getting that one crack at Oklahoma, even though I know they played before, but getting them in the final year when you might not play them again is probably going to be pretty cool to host that. But beyond that, like what kind of jumped out to you from the schedule, if anything?
Yeah, getting Oklahoma in Provo, and not just getting them in Provo, but getting them in late November.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what things will be like in the mountains in late November. And so if there's going to be any kind of environmental advantage, it might come to BYU in late November, with the Sooners visiting on November 18th at altitude in wintertime or close to wintertime. That'll be interesting. Of course, when you go to Austin, that's always a circle the calendar date. And let's remind folks that BYU has played Oklahoma and Texas 7 times historically, and they're 6-1. So they've done okay against those marquee programs. And of course, the eras change. The Oklahoma games were, in the 90s and the aughts, and Texas more recently, but they have played them 7 times and lost only the 1 game. So the Texas and OU games are the natural highlights, and BYU's had success against Texas both in Austin and in Provo, and that'll be the final game of October for BYU. But then you back up into September, and you naturally have to look at the firsts, right? The first Big 12 game is BYU at KU in Lawrence on September 23rd, and then the first Big 12 home game is a Friday night at LaVell Edwards Stadium at 8:15 p.m. Mountain Time, 9:15 Central, 10:15 in the Eastern Time Zone. Those marquee primetime Friday night BYU games that they've played so many times over the last, decade plus of independence, and that'll be how BYU opens its Big 12 tenure at home. So those 2 are September highlights, followed by the natural highlights of Texas and OU in October and November. And the Oklahoma State series hasn't been contested for a long time for BYU. So getting into Stillwater for the first time is also a great way to end the regular season on November 25th.
I got to tell you, when you mentioned that there's a countdown on Friday of next week, the 30th, I think that's really cool. I've seen your Twitter handle. There's 11 days left, and then you mentioned something that had to do with 11, then now 10. And so it's fun. It's great to see 4 schools. I can't wait to be a part of it. Houston had kind of an event last night as they start to count down. And, Greg, we appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you at Big 12 Media Days and also the start of the 2023 season.
Yeah, I'll be there. Looking forward to getting to Arlington for that. And, my Twitter will have a few more countdown stats coming up over the next 9 days as well. So thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate it. And, BYU and Cougar Nation's thrilled because the Big 12 isn't only a great move for BYU. As you can tell in the realignment wars right now, it's among the most stable moves a school can make right now. The Big 12, I think, is in great shape with a really bright future. And, guys, it is always a pleasure to come on with you.
You too, Greg. Greg Rubell, voice of BYU Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. In the 4 o'clock hour, we'll start with Jared Sandler on the Rangers. We'll go baseball for a couple of segments. Speaking of which, 3-2 Florida. They scored on 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th on an infield deep ground ball deep in the hole at shortstop, and the shortstop had no chance to try to throw out the runner. And so Florida scored on 2-out infield hit in the deep hole, and they lead 3-2 with 1 out as they are now in the top of the 9th inning.
Yeah, tried to make a throw. Looked like his foot slipped a little bit, but, even if he'd had his footing, it was still momentum, body moving one way, trying to throw across his body the other way. So I don't even know how much of a difference that would have made necessarily. Now 1 out for Florida. But, just a very timely placed hit. And just about anywhere else, that was out number 3. And, they're moving on into the 9th with, TCU tied at 2. But great play, or great timely hit, like I said. And, they've got 2 more outs to go to try and eliminate the Frogs.
Tonight, LSU at Wake Forest. LSU has to win to force a game tomorrow. We'll come back and update that game. Who knows? There's still 2 outs, top of the 9th. TCU trying to find a way to go at least to the bottom of the 9th inning. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Right now, they have andouille sausage on sale for $2.99 a pound. German sausage, $3.25 a pound. And then they also have bacon ends and pieces, $2.50 a pound. Bone-in pork chops, they're $1.99 a pound. All of this perhaps as you get ready for 4th of July, and a pound of frozen ground chicken for $1.75 a pound. Then the mother load of king crab at $40 a pound, $13.99 a pound for snow crab. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Florida, on a deep fly ball to the wall in dead center field with a heck of a catch. And they've knocked TCU out of the College Baseball World Series. And this is 365 Sports.
The future's bright. The time is now. College college is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Working on Jared Sandler, and he's going to call you right back, Garrett. One of the voices of baseball, Rangers baseball, and they've had a heck of a year. They're good. Even with DeGrom out, start wondering about eventually do they just kind of start to slide a little bit. But the Astros have had their injuries. The Angels are playing well, and they should with Trout and Ohtani, even though Trout has not been producing much. But last night there was a call at home plate. Craig, did you see it? The home plate call with the White Sox. I thought an incredible throw. And then a great tag by Heim, and then the call. And I sat there when they said he was, because of catcher's interference, that blew me away.
Yeah, it was a bad call. I watched it a few times, and maybe Jared can enlighten us a little bit more on we'll hear in a second. But, yeah, I don't know how you saw that. I think the ump had a bad vantage point. If you watch kind of where he was at the time that the the play was made. It looks like he was a little bit out of position, so maybe it had something to do with that. But I would imagine that somewhere in those MLB offices, not out publicly, they're going, to him, going, that was a mistake. Next time, maybe get a little better look at that call. But that was a tough way to lose a game.
It was. And Jared Sandler, Rangers again, will play Chicago this evening. He joins us, part of the Rangers radio network and a great friend of ours, a USC grad, by the way. Jared, did baseball respond at all to last night's overrule of the play at the plate?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. And baseball's the offices, if we're going to say baseball to represent the offices, they were the ones who made the call. The call was not made by the umpires on the field. The umpire crew that was in the replay command center were the ones who ultimately made that call, and obviously it was a game-changing call. The problem that I have with it is that they gave teams this guidance before the year that what Jonah Heim did was not within the rules. The problem is that's not explicitly laid out in the rule. They took the rule and then they shared with teams before the year. They gave them some information and gave them pictures and stuff, and they did say, from what I've been told, that what Jonah Heim did was something that they shared that is not legal. That is against the rules. The only problem is when you read the rule, there's nothing about standing on home plate that is mentioned in the rule. It essentially says that a catcher is prevented from obstructing the runner's path to the plate before they are in possession of the ball trying to make a tag. And Jonah Heim did not obstruct Elvis Andrus' path to the plate. He had a clear path to the plate. And so the problem to me, from what I have heard and learned in conversations today, is not in the execution of the rule, but it's that you shouldn't have such an incredibly difficult time explaining the rule, and the rule should not be up for such great interpretation when it's something as objective as standing on the plate. If that is the rule, if you cannot stand on the plate with your body in foul territory, that needs to be the rule. That needs to be a part of the rule. That needs to be added language to the rule. And it is not. If you read the rule book, there is nothing about that. The umpiring crew in New York was simply going off the guidance that was provided to teams apparently before the year.
Jared Sandler with us, the Rangers Radio Network on 365 Sports.
Well, appreciate that clarification, Jared. In terms of the Rangers themselves and where they find themselves, what's it been like to see Bruce Bochy take over these reins and guide this team these last few months? What maybe stands out to you that's different from past managers, and just what's it been about him in particular and his staff that outside of the talent that they have and just the belief, why they got these guys playing so well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been great observing what Bruce Bochy does as a manager of a team, and I think he knows how to press the right buttons. I think what's been said throughout the year is that he's got a way of getting guys to buy in, probably in part because he's got the skins on the wall to do so. But I think more than that, it's the communication. Where the Rangers are playing the White Sox, and last year, in the last years, the White Sox had a manager who had skins on the wall, and Tony La Russa, but he was unable, despite his impressive resume, to communicate, whatever it is he wanted to or needed to communicate to get an incredibly talented roster to win games. Tony La Russa was not managing a roster that was, bereft of talent. And so, I say that not to kick Tony La Russa or anything, but to just, further illustrate, Bruce Bochy's communication is great. And it's not just what he says or how he says it, but it's the buy-in he gets from players when he says it. And I think a big part of that is something that's been shared here about how, he finds a way to touch guys, every guy in the roster every day. And what I mean by that is, there's certain times you'll hear a player say, yeah, I haven't spoken to the manager in 2 weeks, or I don't even know if he knows my name, or, what have you. But Bruce Bochy has a way of connecting with all the players each day and making them feel valued and making them feel like they are a part of something. And when it comes from the top, there's value there, right? I could talk to the players every day and they don't give a crap. I don't have that sort of gravitas that Bruce Bochy does. I'm not their manager, but when their Hall of Fame manager does that, I think that carries a lot of weight. And I think that you can't quantify it, but I think that absolutely plays a part in what makes him so unique and so gifted as a manager.
Jared, there have been years in recent years, and you know this, that if I asked about who has overproduced or who has outlived the production of what we thought, I'm not sure we'd even have an answer. But when I bring up Ezekiel Duran, obviously there was a lot of hype with Josh Young and what he's brought from Texas Tech, great stud young kid. Heim, Tavares, Garcia, although he produced at times last year. I could go on and on and on. Am I right?
Yeah, and I would not. I mean, I know you mentioned Josh Young. I would put Josh Young at the very top of that.
Yeah,
and maybe right with Leody Tavares, but Josh Young's a rookie. He got a cup of tea last year, but he wasn't very good. I mean, he was fine defensively, but it's not like you look at his numbers and you're like, yes, rookie of the year for sure. I don't even think he was top 5, in Vegas to win rookie of the year before the year started. Not only, is he probably the front runner at this point for the American League Rookie of the Year, but he's hitting, he's going to hit 5th again tonight, but, he's hit 3rd the last 2 days and very well could be an all-star third baseman, probably very well should be an all-star third baseman. And if it was strictly on merit, maybe you could say should be the starting third baseman in the all-star game for the American League. He has been that good, and he has been really good defensively in addition to what he's done offensively. So, yeah, I think the Rangers, for a while, you're right, Smokey, they have not had many guys, especially position players, who have performed at a level above what the expectation was. Maybe 1, maybe 2 a year, but right now they've got a lot of guys doing that. And I mean, heck, you could sit here and say, I don't know that there's anyone who was as high on Corey Seager going into the year as I was, but I don't know that I could honestly sit here and say, yeah, I thought he'd have the highest OPS in Major League Baseball as we're sitting here on June 21st with him nearly at 200 plate appearances. The guy has been absolutely absurdly good. And, the Rangers have a lot of guys who have outperformed maybe, the preseason projections for sure.
What were your thoughts when you heard the Jacob deGrom news? I can't imagine there was necessarily a ton of surprise. I know it's been a few days now, but just such a bummer knowing the potential that was there and just the brief glimpse that we kind of got into what a player he is and can be. But just your thoughts on that whole situation, Jared, and how the organization has responded in kind.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, for him, just feel terrible. You could hear and see how much it means to him to be on the field and, how much it pains him to not be on the field. I think he's having so much fun this year. I know that there are stories about, what he's like and, reputation, whatever in New York. I think what it comes down to and talking to him and other people, I don't think New York's for everyone. And that's not a bad thing either. Chicago's not for everyone. DFW's not for everyone. Green Bay, Wisconsin's not for everyone, right? I mean, everyone's got their taste, and I just think he's one of these guys who likes to show up and play baseball. I think he likes to be with his teammates. I think he likes to, just play the game. And, have had the chance to get to know him. I think, from a media standpoint, he's been so much more open with us because, we're not the New York media. We're not trying to hound him, and you're not pitting him against teammates and stuff like that. And I think I think he was loving baseball and talking to guys like Travis Jankowski, who, they've played with him in the past. They were teammates with the Mets. And so I hate that, now he gets that and now he's not a part of it from a production standpoint. I think from a fan standpoint, you hate the fact you're not going to get to see the most talented pitcher in baseball until late next year. But I think there's also maybe a sense of relief that there's clarity, and I think there is for Jacob as well, because now you're not holding your breath every time he goes out there wondering what's wrong and what's going to happen and when is it going to happen. Now we know, hey, ligament needs to be replaced. He got 13 years out of the ligament the first time after his initial surgery, and I don't know that he's going to pitch for 13 years, but guys who have this sort of surgery and have success with it tend to have success if they have to have it again. That, the best sign for recovery from this is previous recovery. And so hopefully that means when he comes back with a fresh ligament, he's going to be 36 years old, but he'll have a ligament that's not 36 with the wear and tear, that he's going to be able to do some of the special things he can do when he's healthy. It's going to be a little bit of a delayed gratification. And then from a team standpoint this year, they got to make a move to get starters. Whether it's just for depth because they're thin, another injury and they're in trouble, but also to bolster the top of their rotation. I think that it'd be really important to get someone at the deadline if the opportunity was there, and preferably someone with control, because that could kill two birds with one stone. The Rangers are going to have a need in their rotation this offseason. It doesn't look like there's anyone in the minors right now who is pitching at a level where you're like, this guy for sure will be a part of the rotation opening day next year. Now, that could change, but Martin Perez is a free agent after the year, and there's an option tied to Andrew Heaney. So the Rangers might have the need for one, maybe two starting pitchers, and you can address one of those needs at the deadline if you get a guy who can help you this year who's controllable for next year also.
Are they a year ahead of schedule or two?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think you can look at the Rangers right now and say anything less than they're a World Series contender. Do they have the best roster in the majors? No. But they are, as we have this conversation, they are the third best team third best team in Major League Baseball, I think, behind the Rays and the Braves. I think they're tied with the Orioles. And you can't be this deep into the season with that record and not at least be taken seriously through that lens. So, yes, I think going into the year, the hope was that they'd be competitive in September with a chance to make the playoffs. But here we are, and I think at this point, if the Rangers didn't make the playoffs, it'd be a big disappointment. They can basically go 500 the rest of the way, and they should make the playoffs. So, yeah, I think they are ahead of schedule. And now it doesn't mean that they're going to go all in this year. It's not like this is the only year, and I think that some of the moves they make or don't make will be reflective, in the fact that they have a window that extends beyond just this year. With that said, opportunities to win a World Series are precious, especially for this organization, right? I mean, it just over the 50-plus years, that has not been the case often. And so I think if they have an opportunity to not totally compromise the future while giving them a great shot to do it this year, I think they absolutely will.
Jared, don't know when we'll talk to you again. I imagine it'll be later on in the season. But would just like your quick thoughts on kind of the rest of the division, at least as far as the Astros and Angels go. A's obviously are not much of a threat. I know there's folks down in Houston that are kind of like, oh, my gosh. But they're a little spoiled right now, to be honest with you. So I don't know how serious to take them. But how do you view the other members of the AL West as it pertains to the Rangers and trying to hold on to the division?
Yeah, I think the A's are going to win the division, guys. I think they're going to just go on a run, and I'll be honest. I don't think the Astros are the second best team in this division. We talked about this at length entering the season. I thought the Mariners were the best team in the division on paper. Right now, they're in fourth. I still am not ready to write them off. I don't think they're the best team in the division on paper. I think the Rangers, I honestly, guys, I think as long as the Rangers can address their bullpen, I think they have the best roster in the division. And maybe this is one of those years where things are clicking. Leody Taveras is doing what he's doing, and you're getting the year you're getting out of Josh Young, and maybe there's a sophomore slump next year. Maybe Leody takes a step. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of things are going right for this team, and you got to take advantage of that. The thing with the Astros for me, guys, I think they're thin. You've seen how they've responded to the Yordan Alvarez injury. I don't understand why they did what they did with Michael Brantley. Their farm system is weak, so they don't have the currency that they've had in the past to make moves at the deadline. They do have a good roster, and I do think that they are a playoff team, but I don't think it's ridiculous to suggest that the Angels are better than they are. The Angels have a really good roster too. I mean, they still have the best player in Major League Baseball in Shohei Ohtani, and they still have Mike Trout, who's having a down year, but even in a down year is still on pace to hit like 38 home runs. And that could change really quickly. And then there's the Mariners, and they at this point, it'd be tough to see them winning the division, but they're just, 4 games out of a playoff spot, and they, to me, still have the best rotation in the division and the best pitching staff in the division. So it is a very tough division. It will not be easy for this Rangers team. I don't think this is the Astros division to lose, even though, obviously they're in third place. But I do think that this is a 4-headed division, and it would not surprise me, even the Mariners, if you told me at the end of the year any one of those 4 teams won the division. But I do think the Rangers right now have the best roster in the division.
Jared, great stuff. We knew you when you were very young and up and coming, and now from a blue chip prospect to a just absolute broadcasting stud. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you all, and thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Jared Sandler, Rangers broadcaster, and we did know him when he first got into the business and out of USC, and he's come a long, long way. Very proud of what he's done with his career.
Yeah, we didn't mention the USC part. I didn't want to because I felt like he's got a game, and we don't want to take up too much of his time.
We had him on after the USC last summer when the Rangers were kind of just like, what are they going to do? But, yeah, he's a huge Southern Cal guy. Played baseball with them, I believe.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate Jared. Kind of an update mainly because of that call last night. We're going to hear from Landry Burdine. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and when I didn't watch most of the game, and I caught it at the tail end, and he was right. And as soon as he started explaining, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. Because the way it was in my head, I was thinking the umpire, because if you watch the clip, the umpire is like, he's not in position. He runs to the side. But what I totally just blacked out in my mind was that he actually had the call right, and then they did go to the booth. And I don't know, remembered it differently in my head, so I'm glad that he sorted that out, because I don't want to place blame on a guy who's actually doing his job correctly. It was even more inexplicably, the guys who have the monitors and are right there that still said that was blocking home plate, which I know by the rule or whatever, but that was ridiculous.
Umpire at home plate made a great call, an emphatic call. He was right, but then they went to review, and I was kind of like nodding off a little bit, and it kind of woke me up. I went, what?
Yeah.
But blocking the plate when he was actually not in front of the plate. I don't know how else Jonathan Heim, the catcher for the Rangers, could have made that play. I have no other idea how else he could have made other than the play he did. All right, Landry Burdine, TCU sideline reporter for football, also baseball aficionado, next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, and need to be. Dr. Kent Petty can help you with testosterone. I saw him yesterday, and he told me that right now, I think he said he's got like 70 clients that are also a part of that semaglutide, which is about losing weight and also helping with issues when it comes to high blood pressure and even lowering the risks of any kind of issues you might have that could be deadly. I'm not saying semaglutide is what does that, but it lowers the risk, and of course, it's also FDA approved. Also, he can find out if you are struggling when it comes to the lack of testosterone. As you get older, it happens. Father Time wins, always does, eventually for everybody, but it also can take away testosterone levels as you get older. And if that's the case, you don't have the same sex drive, your energy is not the same, you're not sleeping well, and he can help you with that. Contact them, PettyClinicLowT.com. They will set you up to get your blood work, and they'll take care of that, by the way. And once you get it done on your time, they will get the results and find out where your testosterone level is, and if it's too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Here we go with 365 Sports into the near second half of the 4 o'clock hour, joined by Landry Burdine. He's the sideline reporter for TCU football and also baseball, college baseball, and baseball aficionado. Joins us, Craig Smoak and David Smoak. Landry, what a gut-wrenching loss. The deep ground ball in the hole, just couldn't quite get footing to throw it. Hell of a run by TCU, like we've said about a lot of things they've done this year or this school year. Your thoughts about their trip to Omaha?
Yeah, still a little soon. I may be the first guy doing an interview after that game. I mean, there's a lot to process there. You know, the Frogs had plenty of chances, and just they just couldn't get a hit at the right time. That timely hitting's been so key for them all season. But man, what a run! I think you said it. You know, I hosted the Sarlo show. You know, we have it at a barbecue joint, I think 5 or 6 times during the baseball season. And the last one that we had was right before the end of May, before the Texas series. And, you know, in large part, those shows were starting to become, you know, the mood was a little down, right? Because they were really thought to be out of the tournament altogether. And then, you know, after our last show, they go on a run of 19-2, and including a sweep of the Big 12 tournament. They're regional and they're super regional. So, I mean, it's just, what a ride. And, the athletic department, like you guys have said, in the Big Three anyway this year for the Frogs, it's just been one hell of a year.
Landry, it's been tough for folks in Waco to see what Trey Richardson was doing there in purple and white and all of that. Man, especially with the baseball season the Bears had on top of that. But no, I mean, can you just kind of talk a little bit about him and what a player he is, what a personality he is? I mean, felt like I saw him fired up, making some play or another multiple times here over the last several weeks. Just what kind of a juice boost did he give TCU and their roster this season?
Well, first of all, I think you guys need to relax. Mitch Thompson's going to get that thing turned around in Waco pretty quick. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. That guy's a real deal. But, Trey, it was really interesting. I got to get out to practice in the fall a fair amount. And for a guy that had just gotten to campus, right, he immediately just kind of – they're those guys that just kind of pop out to you, and they just radiate energy. And he was that guy, and he really took over – what at the time was probably the youngest center of a diamond, in the country with Carson Bowen, the catcher, being a freshman, Anthony Silva, a freshman. And then here you got, freshman pitching. And so for the Frogs to have a guy like that with a lot of expertise come in and a lot of leadership abilities was huge for them. And, he pretty much single-handedly won that Fayetteville Regional, which was, in my opinion, top two, at least with difficulty, as far as regionals. And, the way he kind of put the team on his back, it was incredible. But yeah, he was a frog killer. And as soon as he hit the portal, I think Kirk and Trey were telling me that Trey got a call within 3 minutes, of him hitting the portal, and it was from Sarlos, and he was committed within 5. So, that was a matchup that I think those guys were ready for, and they were excited to have him on campus for sure.
How much also did it help with Sarlos? They go to the World Series. Obviously, TCU had lost their coach to A&M and went down there to help the Aggies. But to get to the College World Series in, year 2, how much does that validate him?
Well, he would never look at it that way. I mean, they won the regular season Big 12 championship last year, right? And so he's widely regarded as probably the best recruiter in the country. And, he turned out, think about this, Kirk's from Northern California. His family has a winery there in Northern California. He turned down the Stanford job. Stanford, another team that was in the College World Series. He turned down Rice. He turned down, I think it was a pitching coach for the Yankees, and he was just biding his time until the TCU job opened up. And, so it's one of those deals. Kirk is and I don't know if you guys got to watch him a lot during the College World Series when they'd have the headset on him, but he's just a genuine dude with a really low heart rate. And he's a player's coach. He's played a lot, and he's a guy that, has played at the highest level. And so he marries kind of a California cool with a really intense guy at the same time, and guys love playing for him. And, getting to this College World Series, I will tell you, from a recruiting standpoint, though, when all those guys got to see him basically give a recruiting pitch with the way he conducted himself, if I'm coaches around the country, I'm nervous, because, that's going to be a big draw for a lot of kids. Kirk's always been a big draw, and it's going to be even more so now.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was planning on asking you. I think he probably turned some heads and made a lot of new fans with his appearances. I really do. It seemed like every time he got on there, if I was on social media, people were talking about what a cool coach. He seems like a blast, or like really enjoyed listening to that guy. And you don't see that all the time.
No, you don't. And for me, it's interesting. I've had to fill in on several of those coaches shows, right? From my, the Gary Patterson era, which, those were always a little scary. And then, the football coaches are kind of strange. I've done Sonny Dykes, and he's a different cat. He's really nice and kind. And, but to do the one this year with Kirk, I got to know him really well. I've known him for a long time, and he's always been really kind to me and kind to my boys. And, but I got to know him kind of on a deeper level this year, and everything you see is genuine, and the guy knows baseball, you don't pitch in the big leagues for as long as he did with the stuff that he had. I mean, keep in mind, he wasn't an overpowering guy, but he had to be really crafty. And, it's just, we're really glad to have him. And I can tell you when Schlossnagle left, and I'll say this too about Schloss. Schloss is a phenomenal guy as well. And it was time for a change of scenery for him. And, if there's a TCU fan that's angry with him about it, they're wrong. I mean, he left that program in so much better shape than he sounded. It's kind of been funny. And so, it's been fun to watch Kirk pick up the reins after Jim left and take them to where they got to just a few minutes ago. God, it's hard to believe that game ended the way it did.
Yeah, no, we definitely appreciate your time. I mean, one last thing for me on Omaha. I mean, you've seen a lot of these teams, and obviously Florida just now up close and personal as the field starts to whittle down. What were your thoughts on the Gators and just kind of maybe what else you saw as far as who's remaining still in the field?
Anytime you play a team that when they're basically their 2 through 7 guys get up and you got a lump in your throat because at any time that ball is going to leave the yard. I mean, that shows you what a great pitching performance that was for that TCU staff today, because that's those dudes. I mean, that Florida lineup, top to bottom, is as dangerous as there is. And, I would say maybe second only to Wake. I mean, Wake is scary good, and their pitching is just ridiculous. And so it's almost like, hey, congratulations, buddy. You get to go to the finals and play, either Wake or LSU, which, by the way, is what was widely regarded as the best team in the country halfway through this season. So, to make it into that Final Four, TCU is not in the position of, sentimental trophies or, hey, we're happy getting there at the end. I mean, they've been knocking on the door enough where eventually they're going to kick it down and win a national championship in something. I just have to believe it, just linger around that long enough. But, to make it into the Final Four after what they went through this season, and, to be talked about amongst what are, in my opinion, probably 2, if not 3 of the greatest college baseball teams in the last 20 years anyway. It's a big deal, man. And they played Florida right off their feet. So I couldn't have been more impressed with Florida, but I was really impressed with the way the Frogs handled them.
All right, so there's this thing called football that's around the corner. Big 12 Media Days, like 3 weeks away, I believe, up in Arlington. And TCU, even though Kansas State, the defending Big 12 champion, the toast of a lot of what they did in the Big 12, and then also getting to the championship game where it didn't end well. And there's this thought, Landry, that, well, the cupboard is dry or the cupboard is empty. And I know that's not the case. They do lose some dudes now. But your thoughts about Spike Dykes and recircling the wagons and what they have coming back?
Well, if Spike comes back, that's going to be a miracle.
I'm sorry. Oh, my God.
Amazing.
Sonny. Yeah.
But no, I just messed with that. I know it's mess. Sonny, Sonny's going to have them ready. I mean, they're going to reload and be ready to rock and roll. But like any season, though, and guys, Baylor was a prime example of this last year. That Baylor team was really talented, but they struggled in one spot. They struggled at quarterback, and you just can't do that and play elite football. And so, if Chandler Morris can pick up the reins and play really good and be really accurate and do the things that he needs to do, then there's no reason TCU can't be back in that Big 12 championship / kind of playoff discussion. There really isn't. They've upgraded in some spots. They've got, some key spots they have to replace. Obviously at corner, losing the Thorpe Award winner and Travis Hodges-Tomlinson and, replacing some of the D linemen and things like that. But from a skill position standpoint, they're going to be better, which is really interesting to say. And then, in a lot of cases, I think there's going to be some surprises. Some of these transfers, some of these guys who come in. I think you guys are going to be impressed. And there's some young guys that I've seen during spring ball that I'm pretty excited about. But I really do think the Big 12 top to bottom this year is going to be really interesting. It's going to be a challenge. I think Baylor's going to be a lot better. I think with the addition of Houston and Cincinnati and some of those guys, I don't think Cincinnati's going to be very good, but I think BYU has a chance to be really good. And so, as I sit back and you guys are talking about Big 12 Media Days coming up in 3 weeks, I didn't even thought about that, man. That's right around the corner.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, this is just going to be one hell of a football year. And I'm moving up to the booth this year. John Denton retired, and so I'm going to be doing color with Estridge, and I'm excited about that challenge as well.
Congratulations.
Good for you, man. That's great.
Cool, yeah.
That's great. I know what Estridge thinks about you, and what he thought about John as well. We've known him a long time, too, so congratulations on the move.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited about it. John's been really good to me. He's been a good mentor, and, it's always good to have a little change of pace, so I'm excited about it.
Landry, last thing for me, and I know we probably talk to you again at media days and get a little more in depth on the football side of things, especially when we have, probably new information from the coaches to talk about and all of that. But what do you think will be the most noticeable difference offensively? And obviously Sonny's got his hand all in that pot as well, but making the change occurring at offensive coordinator now and Kendall Browse coming in, does this look pretty much like exactly what we saw last year with the change in personnel, or does it have some pretty unique differences to it?
I think the differences will be a little more subtle. From what I've seen, he's going to get the ball out a lot quicker, which plays well to Chandler Morris's strength. He's good at that. There'll still be a really big emphasis on the run game. You're going to see a lot of vertical threat. They're going to challenge defenses and try to throw the ball downfield. But, it's not going to look a whole lot different. I think they may run a little faster pace. At times TCU would go with pace. At times they wouldn't last year. And, so it's going to be interesting to see. I think we'll have a lot better feel for that, once they get through kind of the fall camp and you kind of see how the personnel's shaking out, because that's the one thing about Sonny. I'll give him a lot of credit. I mean, he's a chameleon. He can adapt to, a lot of different things. He's got a lot of different offensive philosophies that he's kind of learned and studied over the years. And that's what makes him good. He's able to kind of make some changes based on how his personnel's shaking out. But, they got the wide receiver transfer from Oklahoma State that really looked good in spring. And guys, I don't have my notes from me. I can't remember.
Paul Richardson.
Gosh almighty. Yeah, thank you. John Paul Richardson. He looks really good in camp. And of course, Savion Williams is a Quentin Johnson clone. I mean, same size and speed and everything else. And so, they're going to be scary. They got a couple of Alabama transfers, and Kendall definitely has a lot of weapons to work with.
Landry, go sip on a drink or something after that loss. I know it's like too soon, but really, we appreciate you jumping in with us. It was right after that thing ended. We appreciate your time and the insight with baseball, but also with what Sonny Dykes has in the football team coming up in 2023.
No problem, guys. Happy to hop on with you anytime. Thanks for having me.
Landry Burdine, TCU sideline reporter, also does the Kirk Solos, the coaches show for TCU baseball, and a lot of information from him, a lot of opinions. Some of those on the chat room disagree with some of them, but if you agree with everything, it would be boring as hell. So we appreciate your feedback too.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody had their mind changed about their expectations for TCU based off listening to that. Just the feeling within those walls, at least, from his vantage point, that they're not really going to skip too much of a beat from what they already did. Like, he didn't guarantee or, expect a playoff run again, but contending for the Big 12 title. I mean, if it wasn't the transfer portal era, I think you'd be looking at more of a bounce back type of year. But the fact that you can just pull transfers and let's just get this Alabama guy, and let's go get this Oklahoma State guy, and let's go get this, and you just fill all the spots that you lost. And then, like a Savion Williams through the actual regular recruiting part, they're going to be loaded, man. I mean, with what they have in place as far as head coach and coordinators, and I am interested to see Kendall Browse after his run with Arkansas. Can he replicate the success they had last year? Their strength and conditioning is going to be top notch. I don't know how much of a difference there really is when it comes down to that, nationally, but I know that they're among the best because of who they have. So if there is a difference, that they're on that top level of it. And, defensively, I think they've got somebody that, you want to hold on to in Gillespie as long as you can. But I think he's going to be getting a lot of eyeballs here the more time goes along, because he's good at what he does too. So they've got a great core, and what they did lose, they've replaced with pretty good pieces. So I think that there's every opportunity for them to be really, really good next year. And I do think they've sort of positioned themselves as that school. When you ask, who could run the Big 12? Now, I don't think anybody's just going to run the Big 12 post-Oklahoma and Texas. Because, quite frankly, Texas didn't run the Big 12, and Oklahoma did in football and softball in later years. But, I think that's given both a little bit too much credit. If football, you want to say Oklahoma because they won 6 titles in a row in the Big 12, that's fine. But sometimes I think that, Oklahoma and Texas are leaving. Now, who's going to win? Well, the schools that were still winning at Kansas State and Baylor and TCU and Oklahoma State. What do you mean who's going to win? So, but I do think that they're positioning themselves right there at the top in terms of what they've got in the stable right now
It's
across
so
the
silly.
athletics brands.
It's part of that national thought.
I know.
Because, yes, Oklahoma had a stretch where they dominated with a big chunk. Mac Brown had some hellacious teams in the 2000s. But along the way, throughout that, Kansas State, TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma State, they won Big 12 titles.
Or nearly made the playoff. I mean, Oklahoma State was a play away from making the playoff a couple of years back. Hate to bring that back up for them, but that was also Baylor's third Big 12 football title. But that doesn't register the same way as just Texas being present or Oklahoma being present and what have you. So that narrative does need a little bit of correcting. But I will say my caveat on TCU is just a couple of things. Max Duggan was just so damn good when he needed to be most of the time. That Chandler Morris does have some pretty big shoes to fill. Now, I don't think it's like you're replacing Cam Newton, so I don't think it's out of the possibility of the mind to think that Chandler Morris can come in and have a really successful and even great year, especially with that offense. It's not like he's having to do, advanced calculus on every snap. I mean, it's going to be, hey, quick fire, throw, handoff, whatever. So he's not going to have to think a whole lot, and he's going to have great athletes around him. But still, Max Duggan was damn good last year for them. But my biggest caveat is just they won so many close ball games, man. Like, they won so many close contests that I think, to try and assume they're going to replicate that. It was like Baylor last year. What's the biggest difference? They didn't win the close games at the same rate that they won them the year prior. So with TCU, that'll be the big key is when they get in those dogfights, are they able to pretty much every time other than K-State and then, obviously the Georgia blowout. But other than that, I mean, they won every single close game, even ones that they had no business winning, like that Baylor game there at the end.
Yeah, and then you're right, Baylor the next year, there were the games that they won, and then last year they didn't have as much success in the closest game, including early on when they lost the overtime game, the multiple overtime game to Brigham Young. I'm not going to give you my picks because, honestly, I think this is a year in the Big 12 that it is truly impossible to pick a preseason football poll. I'm not going to like shy away. I will give you my picks at some point, perhaps in Arlington, but I honestly – I had some at 8, 9, and 10. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? So I filled it out, sent it into Joni Lehman at the Big 12. We'll get to that at some point when we're in Arlington in 3 weeks. But I honestly, I just seen some of the schools that I have near the bottom. I'm like, yeah, there's one or two, but I'm like, what? That's really going to be interesting. And if Texas is not as good as what they appear, and yes, I know they've been overhyped for a long time, many years, but if they're not as good, it opens up again what we might see with 2 years ago, Baylor, Oklahoma State, and also last year, TCU and Kansas State.
Well, if they're not as good, then the one great thing that comes from this is that there will be no more overhyping of them in the Big 12 beyond this year, or underhyping them, or giving too much praise or not enough praise to Oklahoma and things like that. Like, that's out the window. I do think there has been an element of those are brands. Those brands must be near the top no matter what. Let's ignore some of their weaknesses versus the way we would weigh them if it was Texas Tech or Oklahoma State or something, because they just get the benefit of the doubt because more often than not, they are on paper more talented. They've got more invested in, those things like that, more history and everything. Not that history plays into, present day all that much, but there's not going to be that word, that kind of sway anymore. There's not going to be that, well, we got to put Oklahoma or Texas near the top. I mean, they'll be, next year might be an even harder one because there's not those two in there that you go, okay, well, we'll give them a little bit of an edge. But yeah, this year's is with that amount of teams too. I know that's going to be the norm in the SEC and the norm in, in the Big Ten here pretty soon, but 14 teams is a lot to sort through and then try to rank them 1 through 14.
I tried to place in okay, this is why, and I just started. It was like a bad chemistry test. So I redid it and sent it into Joni Lehman. We'll have our votes when we get to Arlington in 3 weeks. By the way, Dylan Doyle and Christian Morgan signed XFL roster contracts. They expand from 51 to 90. I know the XFL, the numbers were not good. They did finish the season. The USFL just finished their season. Corey Coleman was named All-USFL, former Baylor wide receiver and former first-round pick of the Cleveland Browns. So there are stories about that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, those are Baylor guys, Christian Morgan and Dylan Doyle, that were on last year's team, went undrafted and kind of been sitting around. So good to see that. And Dylan Doyle's coming off of an injury where he got hurt in one of the All-Star games or before that. So good to see that he's healthy enough to get an opportunity, and he seems like a really good dude, and best wishes to both those guys.
When we come back, we continue this 4 o'clock hour. The 5 o'clock hour is Locked Up. Jason Shear, Wildcat Authority. We also will hear in the 5 o'clock hour from John Machota from theathletic.com, and in between that, Chad Brendell, covers Cincinnati athletics. He'll join us at 5:20, and this is 365 Sports.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
All right, this was something of interest to me, and appreciate this being sent to me. Allen ISD, they're the ones that have the stadium that, of course, was built, what was it now, Garrett, 5, 6, 7 years? It's been 5 or 6 years.
Than that, yeah.
And then they had some structure issues. Daniel Acton sent this to me. He's an Allen grad. They approved a $75,000 HEB, which is a grocery chain, sponsorship for the football stadium. Means that they will have sponsored logos, etc., on their scoreboard, I guess, placed around the stadium. So I asked the question on my feed that in high school football in Texas, Garrett, I'll throw this out at you, Craig, as well, and there are stadiums with businesses on the stadium, like you see at all pro sports arenas, stadiums, baseball, ballparks, whatever. And there's been a lot of really good responses about some stadiums I knew of. I just said, hey, what are the ones with the name on it? And I don't know if this is going to be HEB ISD, HEB Allen, I don't know, or if it's like Bush's Chicken sponsors the scoreboard at Waco ISD.
I'm trying to, names I don't know. I mean,
All right, you ready?
The legacy, yeah.
Christus, Trinity Mother Francis Stadium in Tyler, which was Trinity Mother Francis Rose Stadium. It's a healthcare. They paid for that. Planet Forge Stadium in Spring.
Okay.
Wood Forest Bank Stadium in the Woodlands. San Marcos' stadium is Toyota Rattler Stadium. And then also out in West Texas, Wolford Friendship ISD is People's Bank. There's Grande Communications in Midland. I think that's right. Maybe they've changed it to, I have someone said, Astound Broadband. There's Randall Reed Stadium in New Caney, Children's Health Stadium in Prosper, Happy State Bank in Canyon, and Community National Bank and Trust Stadium in Corsicana. Cy-Fair is FCU Stadium, which is another federal credit union. So there are some, and there's others like Plains Capital, Lowry Field in Lubbock. Some have stayed and kept their original name, but they've added sponsors' names to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting. It's crazy to see how it's grown. Like, we've always known that high school football is such a big deal in Texas, and we've seen the stadiums and kind of how that's gone viral at times. But to see the evolution of that, where you're seeing businesses get involved, it kind of shows where we're at, and it's just crazy for these times, honestly.
Brandon McAuliffe saying, I don't think I would consider this one the same deal. It's no different than a grocery chain being on the video board at Shotwell Stadium as a sponsor. But there's some of the names of stadiums that actually have a business, like you see with every, like, remember for the longest of time it was Cowboy Stadium until Jerry had AT&T Stadium. Eventually that's going to happen. There's always been the question about McLean Stadium, named after Drayton McLean, the major donor of the beautiful stadium. Would they ever put any kind of sponsor on it? And I think Mac has said that has at least been discussed, but I don't know. They would have to be very, very specific on which type of stadium or corporate name they would put on that stadium. And I think Drayton McLean wouldn't care.
Probably not.
I don't think he would care if it means more money to bringing to the stadium. So, Daniel Acton, thank you for bringing us that information. By the way, just in case you're joining us, TCU lost 3-2 to Florida in the elimination game. That knocks TCU out. Florida, had TCU won, they would play tomorrow. Tonight you have Wake Forest and also LSU playing. LSU needs to win to force a game. Tomorrow, Florida now sits back and waits for whoever survives between Wake Forest and LSU. If Wake Forest wins tonight, then they're into the final with Florida, and then they start the series this weekend.
Yeah, that'll be some good bait. Do we have a guest right next?
Yes, at 5 o'clock, yeah.
Okay.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because I know that sometimes the shorter segments and turning back around can be a little annoying or frustrating. I want to interject just before we get into a slew of guests is nothing to update on the expansion side of things. Again, I mean, we haven't really touched on that today. There's been no reason to. I saw a tweet dug up from a few months back featuring John Canzano that was talking about some of the talk months ago where he took a little shot at us about the conversation Paul was having about TV ratings. And that's months old, that whole thing that got brought back up. But it does seem silly to listen back to it now. Ratings don't matter at all. But, outside of that, just popping and reappearing on my timeline, I haven't seen anything today that is, moving the needle as far as things changing or anything being more imminent or something in the air. Maybe Jason on his end with Arizona can provide us with something from them. But I'm just saying that and putting that out there because if somebody else has seen something or you had something maybe you saw, but I kind of wanted to at least do a daily expansion or realignment update because we do have such rabid fans when it comes to that. It's just more of the waiting game, really, right? I mean, that's where we are. It's just more of the waiting game, and nothing really much has changed since just yesterday.
And, of course, that deadline of June 30th that affects San Diego State. And there is the thought, I thought I saw John Wilner make this comment, and he gets the questions, the mailbag, whatever they call it, is that he doesn't think San Diego State would have written that letter had they not known something. But we had Mark Ziegler on, remember, on Friday, and I talked to him specifically yesterday, traded back and forth some text messages, and he said, no, they absolutely didn't know anything. But they were sending that early flare, and then, of course, it turned into more of a forest fire Friday and through the early part of this week. When we come back, Jason Shear, Wildcat Authority, he'll join us. Also, John Machota will join us, and then Chad Brendell will join us. So we'll check in with Arizona and Pac-12 with Cincinnati. This is 365 Sports.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations that will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Jason Shear, Wildcat Authority, where this covers Arizona, and joins us on 365 Sports. We've had Jason on quite a bit, and it's been a while. And who knows, over the next 2-3 weeks or so, if we might end up having almost like a roundtable of about 15 people we've discussed on the Pac-12, but also those involved in a realignment. Jason, has anything changed at all, in your opinion, where we are with the Pac-12?
Not really. I mean, the only real news, I guess, is San Diego State pretty much telling everyone that they plan to go to the Pac-12. I mean, maybe they didn't handle the process, but I don't think there's anything super new. I've heard some rumors, some whispers that there could be some sort of deal presented to the Pac-12 presidents in the next few weeks, which would line up with the timing of everything. And there's still not a lot of confidence from what I'm hearing that the deal will hit the number that everybody wants. But, you know, we'll see what happens when it's presented.
Jason, what have you kind of gathered? Just part of this that's fascinating to me is whatever does end up happening with the Pac, the expansion side, and what that would mean for a San Diego State and potentially an SMU, who in some conversations seem like they'd be a layup, and others, you know, a question mark, like everything else kind of surrounding the conference right now. But just what's your thoughts, or what opinions have you heard on the potential of SMU as a Pac-12 school?
Yeah, from what I understand, you know, San Diego State is a lock. I think that's pretty much a done deal whenever a deal is presented, accepted, all that. San Diego State will happen pretty quickly. SMU is a little bit mixed. You know, from what I understand, there's presidents that are gung-ho and that fits the profile, and there's other ones that, you know, are a little more skeptical. I know that SMU is telling people within their circles that they're confident they will get the Pac-12 invite. You know, with San Diego State, they're pretty much telling people it's already, you know, it's just a matter of time. SMU, I think, is a little bit further behind in that. You know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see just San Diego State and it stops right there. But I know that SMU is pushing forward, and they've got big boosters and things like that. But, you know, I think that when you look at it, you know, if I were putting percentages on it, I'd be almost shocked if San Diego State didn't join the Pac-12, and I really wouldn't be surprised at all if the Pac-12 just kind of stopped with San Diego State.
Jason, when did this go off the rails, and why did this particular TV deal become such a daily soap opera?
Man, that's a good question. You know, I think that it went off the rails a little bit when basically George Kalaka, he kind of messed up the strategy. And what I mean by that is if the Pac-12 goes to market and signs the deal for $35 million or whatever that was rumored they had early on, they're not in this situation. But your mark goes to market almost right away, signs a deal very quickly, and takes away a large option for the Pac-12. Takes away Fox and other options, and all of a sudden, you know, the Pac-12, it's going to be compared to the Big 12 in terms of inventory and how much money they can get and things like that. And times have changed. We're no longer in a time where ESPN and Apple and Amazon are going to overpay for a product. They're going to pay what they feel the value is. And I think the Pac-12 misread that. They thought they could get a certain amount of money even if they waited. And, you know, maybe they will. I don't think they will. I'd be really surprised. But I think they misplayed the initial going to market and all that.
What was the confusion with Robert Robbins and his comments regarding the grant of rights? It seems like maybe he was misquoted in terms of saying that, you know, they didn't have anything, and then it appears that they do have a grant of rights based on what others have said. Can you kind of unpack that, his comments a couple of weeks back on that, and was his quote, I guess, being portrayed as though he was talking about something else, or you know, was he really in the dark on them having a grant of rights agreed to?
From what I understand, the agreement they have is very, very basic. It's basically like, if a good deal comes, this is the things that we're looking at. Like, there's still stuff to be negotiated, but it's basically the Pac-12 say, look, if we get this amount of money, would you guys agree to it? And, are you open to maybe some revenue sharing and blah, blah, blah. And it's very basic. But the reality is, the rumors of the grant of rights have been around since the last Pac-12 meetings, but no one reported it because it's irrelevant, because there's no deal. And so these presidents could say what they want and agree to whatever they want in a room, but no one has signed anything, and there's no deal. And for all we know, let's say a deal is presented for $25 million. Well, the grant of rights that they maybe verbally agreed to had a certain revenue sharing. Well, all of a sudden, maybe in Arizona says, look, if it's only $25 million and we're getting 22 compared to other schools, we're not doing that. So from what I understand, the quote unquote grant of rights was more of, if it reaches a certain amount, then we could discuss and we'd be okay with a certain way of sharing. And, you get your success in football, the playoff money and all that. If you make the playoffs, you get more, things like that, as opposed to, it's very detailed and all that. I would be very surprised from what I heard if that grant of rights is completely done. And I think that's what Robbins was referring to, that, he didn't agree. He didn't sign a grant of rights. He didn't agree to everything in there. It may just be semantics, but I don't think a full grant of rights is done right now.
When any president and or athletic director of anybody that's a part of what is the current Pac-12 says that they want to wait until they get the deal, every one of them should get fired if they didn't, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have to wait. And, even if it's a bad deal, they have to wait until a deal is presented. And that's why these schools aren't rushing. And I think, for instance, Colorado, I know the Smoak and all that, they're close to leaving. But even like Pete Samuel, who I like a lot, he said, they're not leaving before a deal is presented. Now, if a deal gets presented and it's bad, they can move pretty quickly. But until that happens, you can't leave. It's basically, you have to do your due diligence when you're in this job. And I can't see anyone leaving. The only way that a school would leave before a deal is if we're talking 2 months from now, football season's about to start and there still has been no deal presented and no deal in sight.
You know how social media is, there's all kinds of things flying left and right, and so it's hard to kind of sort through some of it sometimes. Sometimes you see things about deadlines, and that turns out that's just speculation. That's not hard fact or whatever. There's been some scuttlebutt about, hey, the end of this month, right? Just kind of lining up comments and the timing of things. We are 1 month exactly away from Pac-12 Media Days. It's hard to believe they wouldn't have something to present then, right, Jason? But do you feel like there's any sort of should we be watching here in 10 days at the end of the month, or do you think they've got, this whole entire month until media days, and that's still, good room to try and get something done?
Yeah, I haven't heard of a strict deadline. I think the reason why the end of the month is coming up so much is the whole San Diego State deal and the amount they would have to pay and all that. But right. I mean, we're at the point where that's just not going to happen. I mean, they're not going to be able to announce. I'd be really surprised if they announced the deal, completed everything by the end of the month. And then, is it necessary to have a deal by Pac-12 Media Day next month? No. Would it be a PR nightmare if they did it? Yes. I mean, it would pretty much overshadow the entire Pac-12 Media Day. To me, I think they have to have a deal by that day. I think it gets real ugly in terms of PR and questions and pressure on the president. If you're basically getting ready to start the football season and you don't know where your next deal is coming from. So I don't know if there's a strict deadline, but I think from a PR standpoint, in an ideal world, they have that deal done before Pac-12 Media Day.
What nightmare would it be? And I saw John Wilner in his mailbag, and I John, to me, even though at times there's been some stories that did not work out, I trust that he does his due diligence. That doesn't mean that at times whoever trusts that we do due diligence, you're going to have maybe something that doesn't quite work the way you were told. But it would be a nightmare, would it not, if they don't announce at Pac-12 Media Days? An absolute disaster?
Yeah, I mean, Wilner said the same thing, and I completely agree with him. It was just, you're taking the focus, like the whole point of Pac-12 Media Day is to focus on the team, the players, the coaches. That's done. Everybody would be wondering about realignment. That would be every question. And George and every Pac-12 commish usually opens up the media day with a great speech, boasting about how great the Pac-12 is. You can't do that if there's no media deal. You can't talk about the future of the conference like they like to do. It would be an absolute PR nightmare if they don't have that deal done by media day.
Yeah, because I always thought that a media day, for example, last year, the Big 12 introduced Brett Yormark, and Bowlesby handed off the microphone, had a few things to say, and he walked into the night. And that it's, to me, and Dr. Livingstone of Baylor was there as well, to me, the media days in football are as much about the commissioner setting the tone of the state of the conference, and yes, focusing on the teams too.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been like that. It's always the first thing from Larry Scott. George did it when he was hired. You start off with the state of the conference. Where are we going? The Pac-12 usually announces some international stuff that they're doing. They go over the teams. They talk about television and all that. What are you going to do? I would almost say if there's no deal, I don't even know if George would make a speech because it would just be worse in that situation. And he didn't make one at the Pac-12, championship, the Pac-12 tournament for basketball. He didn't make himself available when in the past he has. And it's, it's tough to imagine him getting up in front of everyone and talking about the future of the conference and setting the table and, for the future of the conference when we don't even know if there is a future of the conference. So to me, and I'm sure they know this and they've talked about it. It is absolutely vital that they get something done within a month.
All right, Jason, you mentioned that 22-5. We've seen that. We know what the Big 12 with 31.6 or 7 or whatever. There's numbers that are thrown out there. Where do you feel like the 22-5, that number is coming from? Where is that from who you've been able to dig around with, or are people giving you that information?
Yeah, all I'll say is it comes from someone within Arizona that I trust quite a bit. I'll be honest, I don't have full details about where it's coming from, in terms of, the station and the network and all that. The number that they believe will be presented is 22.5. Now, that could include other ways other escalators to make that number increase. I don't know if it even includes the Comcast payments and all that, but I know that's the most consistent number. I've heard that from a few people. And, the biggest question to me is just where's it coming from? I every time I dig or I ask people, what network and all that, it's hard to get a clear answer. The only one that I've heard that isn't out is Apple. But the thing is, Apple in 100% streaming would go against what the presidents want because they don't want 100% streaming. I can't see a situation where they agree to that. So maybe the 22.5 is Apple and they're able to put other sorts of games on other networks and things like that. But right now, from what I've been told by a few people that I trust, the deal's just not there still. And maybe that changes suddenly. If it does, George deserves a lot of credit because he's absolutely moved in silence and done things very quietly and successfully. But right now, that doesn't seem to be the case.
All right, Jason, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. A month away from Pac-12 Media Days. We'll see exactly what happens between now and the end of the month, which is next Friday. And also then on July 1st, of course, the official welcome of Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, and Brigham Young. And we'll discuss that quite a bit next week. We'll see if they have any kind of official welcoming of anybody Pac-12, or at least an announcement in the near future.
Yeah, 1 month from today is Pac-12 Media Days, exactly 1 month from today. I will say one thing they have definitely done better than the Big 12. If I had a Big 12 complaint, and this is more of a selfish complaint, I don't know how everybody else feels about it because I understand the convenience of it, but, man, when I'm looking around at some of these other media days, and they're, like the SEC, they're like at what, Destin or something? Isn't it Destin?
I think it's Destin.
Yeah, I think it's Destin and like the beach and it's all beautiful and everything. And then the Pac-12 is in Vegas coming up for their one-day media day. Like Jerry's World's great. I understand the championship games there at the end, but, man, there's just not a lot going on in Arlington, man. I mean, there is in terms of, like, if you want to get drunk, you want to eat, you want to do, like, that whole thing, that's fine. Like, you get your basic essentials. But it's in the middle of just concrete, like it's just out there in the concrete jungle, baby. And so in comparison to some of those other media day spots, it could use a coat of paint, even though it is super convenient. I understand that, and it gets the job done. But it would be nice to get a little like side action there for the nights in Arlington rather than 150 degrees and walking across the parking lot all the time. I'm being selfish. I'm admitting that. It's a work trip, but
at least put it in Kansas City. Come on,
the Power and Light District there.
You guys don't like football media days at AT&T?
No, I mean I get where he's coming from though. It's just it's the same.
It's fine for the daytime when you're there, but in comparison to Vegas or to Destin and the nightlife and the things to do, and bring if you're somebody who's covering the Big 12, you bring in
aren't the SEC media days in Hoover, Alabama? Or did they move it to Destin or Birmingham?
Destin. Okay. No, that was the spring meetings.
That was
Destin.
the AD meetings. Yeah,
yeah. But the media, but still, that's the AD meetings in Destin Beach, and then in
Hoover.
The
Big 12 meetings are like in Scottsdale, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, I guess. Fight for AT&T Stadium, then that's fine.
I
know. I just think that it could be spruced up. The stadium's great. Jerry World is great, but
SEC is going to be in Nashville this year. Which is an
same thing as Arlington.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's kind of the trend too. Is like you're kind of making these events, right?
Yep.
And AT&T is one of the most world-class facilities there is. Arlington's nice and centrally located. I understand as far as the schools go. We're not going to go to Manhattan. We're not going to go to Waco or to Lubbock or whatever. But I don't know what your other option would be either. I don't know what would make more sense.
Orlando.
I mean, I'd be up for that like every 3 years or something, sure. Yeah, or just another spot that would just kind of change it up. But I do understand the central appeal of AT&T, but that's a different conference, too, that was operating there now. They're getting wider and larger across the country. So I think that's something that they, especially if you're a Your Mark big events guy, if you want to advertise it a certain way, you can advertise AT&T. But if you wanted to move it around a little bit and say, let's do something sort of unique and find a more central location, I don't think I'd be the only one not opposed to that. That's all I'm saying.
No, I don't. If they moved it wouldn't bother me a bit. I've seen him at the Omni. I've seen him at the Omni downtown Dallas. I've seen him at the Omni, which I think is right there near Carrollton off of the North Dallas Tollway.
And that was
the four. They were at the Star in Frisco.
Yeah.
What really actually was. Now that place has exploded in the last 2 to 3 years. That's not even the same.
Yeah.
That's like a city from beyond.
The Omni would have been better if Dallas had a better downtown, in terms of walking around and stuff. But Dallas isn't great as far as that goes compared to like other big cities. So it was great location wise for like getting there, but like location wise as far as entertainment and all those things, it wasn't really happening because of the way downtown's laid out up there. But yeah, just a thought, because I did see, Las Vegas for the Pac-12, and I'm like, I'm not usually envious of anything over there.
No, that'd be awesome.
But that'd be pretty cool, you know?
That'd be awesome, especially since it's about 2 or 3 days, which is the perfect amount of time. Unless you're Phil Venzer, who lives in Las Vegas. From Roger Phipps, if you guys make it to Destin, we can have a beer. Roger, thank you very much. Connor, let's go to Antarctica.
Hey.
That'd be nice. It'd be different.
If you stepped outside right now, we'd love to do that. If you were stepping outside where we are, Antarctica sounds fantastic compared to what it's like outside.
JM, Brett Yormark could move it to a resort in Mexico.
Cancun, Big 12 Media Days. Hey, Emory's in.
Yeah, in Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament. I know there's some bitching and moaning about that because Kansas City and Kansas they're closer and all that, but they do a great job.
And there's stuff within walking distance.
They do a great job of hosting it. I know people think it's a home court advantage, and maybe it is, but Texas won it last year. They've won it, I think, once or twice. And
so
Kansas hasn't won the Big 12 tournament every year, but when it was Missouri and Iowa State and Kansas State, it could get a little bit full of itself. But I just, the atmosphere and what they've done to host it, they've earned it. And they've tried it in Dallas, and it wasn't very good.
I remember Paul and I going to the Big 12 women's tournament. They were hosting it at American Airlines Center. This goes back to my Dallas downtown discussion, and I know it's changed since then. There's been a lot that's spruced up or whatever around the AAC, but we had to kill several hours before the actual game. I don't remember why. It was like I had to do my show at the time in the midday, and then I think he was off and on with you or something. But we had to kill like 4 or 5 hours in downtown Dallas without a car. And let me tell you something, that's not easy to do. There is not a lot going on and within walking distance and all of that. So that was, my experiences there haven't been super entertaining as far as that goes. So I understand why they shifted it from the Omni to Arlington for that part of it. But yeah, they could up that and change that up a little bit as well. And Kansas City, I see that fight over and over again as well every year. But they do a great job. Like and that's why I brought it up
when no one else really was doing a good job of it.
But
and
that's what made me think of Dallas. Is Dallas had it, and I don't think that they go all in the same way that Kansas City goes all in with it. So, yeah, I agree with you on that.
All right, when we come back, Chad Brendell covers Cincinnati, one of the schools, of course, 10 days away from entering the Big 12. We'll check in with him on just the Bearcats in general, but also as where they are facility-wise and what else are they going to do differently with some of the influx of money, and they're in pretty good shape. That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, the people that you can count on, the people that I have counted on more than one occasion to get my car fixed up right after a couple of dings and dents and things of that nature, and you wouldn't be able to tell that it's had any work done if you walked outside right now and looked at my vehicle. It's because Richard Carr did such a great job with it. And if you're looking to get your car worked on, your truck, your SUV, you're trying to drive it a little while longer, whether it's getting some dents taken out or getting some work done after a wreck, or it's just getting the basic essentials done like your oil changes, they have all the tools in place for you to drive your car, truck, or SUV a little while longer. Check out their award-winning service department at Richard Carr, standing by to keep you on the road at all times. Go to richardcarr.com. You can check out their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable repairs or work to be done on your vehicle. That's just one option, just going over there and getting your car worked on. But you can also go over there and find yourself a brand new car that eventually will probably need some work on it, and they can help you out with that as well. Right now, their 24th anniversary sales event, big savings, pre-owned cars and trucks, special savings on Sierras from the GMC line, as well as Buick Envision SUVs. Right now, you can save $3,000 on 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500. You can also get 2.9% financing on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks, and you can talk to the good folks over there for more details on the financing and on the percentages and money saved and all those types of things. They can explain it a lot better than I ever could, but there are thousands that can be saved right now on the GMC line of Sierra trucks. And also, they've got the luxury SUVs from the Buick line. Savings there as well. Save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premiums, $3,500 on Buick Enclave Avenires for qualified buyers. Check out the dealership for more details there as well. And if you're not looking to buy new, they've also got quality pre-owned cars and trucks all over the lot, and many of them under $20,000. So no matter what you're looking to do, Richard Carr can hook you up, and that's why they've been in business for 24 years in the Central Texas area and built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Go check them out. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House. Samantha Duvall is in charge of marketing and also distribution. Memorial Day, right around the corner, 4th of July. What are some of the best opportunities for people if they want to order online and maybe get a bundle when they have those holidays in front of them?
TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order. We've got plenty of family bundles. Probably our most bestseller is our sampler pack. That gives you a variety of our jalapeno and cheese patties, our regular patties, ground beef, our garlic link summer sausage. Right now, all of our family bundles are on sale. It's the best time to buy it. We also, you can buy steaks individually. All of our steaks come 2 to a package. We ship Monday through Wednesday. So make sure you get your orders in early. That way you can get them almost the next day.
The owner, Aaron Duvall, his daughter-in-law, Samantha Duvall, head of marketing and distribution, unleashed the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's Jeep season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are hot. Get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with $5,500 in total values, or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with total values up to $6,000.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Chad Brendell from BearcatJournal.com has been a part of our show since the news started to develop back in the fall of 2021 about the Big 12 and the incoming four. And here we are, Chad. Thanks for your time with Craig and David Smoak. 10 days away. We had Greg Rubell, who covers Brigham Young, on earlier today, and they're having like a countdown deal every day. And also there's a huge kind of like get-together party on the 30th, a Friday of next week before July the 1st. Is Cincinnati even having anything remotely like that?
Yeah, so they're doing a couple different events. It's funny, they wanted to go big on the 1st, but there's a Taylor Swift show at the Bengal Stadium, and it's going to be a chaos. It's going to be an absolute madhouse. So they were like, we're probably going to have to back that off.
Understandable. There's no messing with Taylor Swift. Understandable.
Not right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, just what would you kind of describe the excitement level as? I mean, I know we've checked in with you from time to time, but knowing that, hey, here in a month, there's going to be, or less than a month, Big 12 Media Days, and Cincinnati's not just going to be visiting like last year. They're going to be there and representing, and players walking around and all of that. Just what's kind of the feel heading into this, unknown of Big 12 football?
There's definitely a lot of excitement. I think it's a little different than maybe I expected, and I think that's just because Luke Fickell's gone. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of unknown around the football program. I mean, they're basically going to have an entirely new offense. Like pretty much every position is going to be an unknown on offense. And they think they've got enough to be really good on defense, but still you're implementing a new system. It's a lot different than the one that they had ran previously. So I think there is still a lot of excitement, but I think everybody's kind of looking around and going, we don't really know what we have right now. Like we're not sure what it's playing poker blind, right? Where you're looking around, you're trying to get a read on the table, and everybody's betting, but you haven't seen your cards yet. So I think there's some cautiously optimistic is where I would say. Well, if Luke Fickell was still here, I think everybody would be chomping at the bit, right?
And with that being said, how much does that change perhaps the expectation or the expectations for 2023?
For fans, I don't think it changes much. I think they still expect to win at a pretty high clip. I think, if you're being realistic, and this is kind of what's hard for me to gauge. If you look, there's probably going to be, I don't know, 7 coin flip games for Cincinnati next year.
Yep.
So I'm looking at a schedule where they could be anywhere from 4-8 to 8-4, and none of it would surprise me. So that's what's hard to get a read on when there can be that much variance in, having a great season or everybody going, did John Cunningham hire the wrong football coach?
Well, one thing about the Big 12 is that there are the ups and downs of these games that are 3 to 4, 7 points. One year you get 4 or 5 of them go your way, and one year that goes the opposite. We saw that with Baylor from 21 to 22. We've seen that with other schools too, and I think all conferences probably have that, but it does seem to be more the trend in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's the overall, look, in the American, Cincinnati just was in a position where they had more talent than everybody but, 1 or 2 teams every year. So as long as you played reasonably well and didn't, crap the bed, you were going to win a bunch of games. And now you're going into a league where everybody's talent is pretty darn similar. So you can play reasonably well and still go 4-8. And, I think that's going to be the biggest adjustment for fans. But to that point, they have been through this once when Cincinnati moved to the Big East. And they had 2 years where it was bumpy, and then they leveled out, and things went pretty smoothly from there on out. So we have seen this blueprint before, at least.
Chad, we've been just kind of checking in with programs and just sort of, getting the temperature gauge as we've been doing with you here for the first few questions. But in terms of kind of where they sit temperature-wise with facilities, with NIL, with all of those extracurricular types of topics that now are very much on the forefront, especially in college football. Obviously some of that got them into the Big 12 to begin with, but how do you kind of view their position there now, knowing what they're heading into and knowing just kind of what the landscape all around college athletics looks like?
Well, I mean, they've done a $100 million renovation in Nippert Stadium in the last decade. Outside of maybe an expansion down the road, I think Nippert in its current iteration, that's what Nippert Stadium is going to look like. It's phenomenal. And honestly, everybody's downsizing stadium size right now, not going up. So I don't know that part is even that realistic. They completely gutted and remodeled the basketball arena. That was another $90 million project. And they just broke ground a month ago on a $130 million indoor practice field and performance facility for the football team. They're making some upgrades to the baseball stadium. So on that front, they're pretty far ahead of the curve.
Chad, I know it's been a while since he was at Cincinnati, but what has been the reaction, the emotions with Bob Huggins' story in West Virginia?
Unfortunately, I don't think anybody's surprised. Bob is his own worst enemy in a lot of ways. And at both Cincinnati and West Virginia, he's been enabled. And he's never had to look himself in the mirror and fix this problem that he has. And it keeps jumping up and biting him. And, I mean, the man is a great basketball coach. But under no circumstance, ever, should you put yourself in a position to be as drunk as he was behind the wheel of a car? I mean, 0.21 is college kids drinking the original Four Loko. What are we doing?
Right.
It's sad because it's avoidable. And they have a driver at West Virginia for him to take him around. And he's not using it and doing what he's doing. It's stupid. And it's unfortunate to see his career end like that. But, I mean, hopefully he can get some help because he needs it if he thinks that what he's doing is okay.
Chad, we appreciate what you're doing. So what did you cover last week in Florida? What was it, a tournament for was it your daughter's sport?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't covering anything. My daughter was at her first AAU Nationals for volleyball, and they played a team from Houston. She's on 12 and under, guys, 12 and under. They played a team from Houston who had a girl that was 6'2". She was 12.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to one of the dads on their team. He had an 11-year-old on the team. She was 5'10", and he's got a 14-year-old daughter that's 6'3".
Oh, man.
Like, what do you guys got in the water down there?
Yeah.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah. I think every now, I'm not saying Little League, but every youth league or even select ball, whatever sport, has those teams that push the envelope and end up, like, ruining it for everybody else.
Well, but they were legit. Like, I saw the girl that was 6'2". Her dad was 7 foot, and her 16-year-old brother was 6'10".
Yeah,
I was like, that checks out.
Yep, that does. Yeah,
you can't even be mad about that.
No.
You're like, they're just growing a 6'2", 12-year-old over there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Chad, look forward to it. Will we see you in Arlington?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make it down because I'm going to be doing AAU basketball coverage.
Okay.
So I don't think I'm going to make it down this year, but I'm certainly going to be rearranging my travel schedule to make it fit in the works here soon.
Okay. All right. Take your time, buddy. Always great to hear from you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, gentlemen. Great to talk to you. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. Chad Brendell from Bearcat Journal, 247 Sports, covers the Bearcats and does a great job doing it.
Bet he'd find a way if it was in Vegas. I'm just kidding. No, I understand that things get in the way sometimes, so a shame that he won't be there, but I know that Cincinnati fans will still get a lot of great coverage from their folks and from us as much as possible as well, and always good to talk to Chad. And I saw a comment of his the other day, and I didn't realize, I guess, kind of what he was referring to with the split feelings right now. But there were a couple of comments, I guess, he was responding to or whatnot that, that people just like, I'm done. Like, I don't care as much anymore. And, just kind of, I guess, already, I don't know if throwing in the towel would be the right but how every fan base has those people that overreact or one extreme to the next, and so it's just like something doesn't go your way, and you're like, all right, I don't want to watch college football anymore. 2 years ago you're in the playoffs, mind you. Like that's kind of insane. That's sort of a quick turnaround, but
I'm numb to watching Nebraska football because I was so spoiled for 4 decades, but I watch them.
Yeah.
And if I can't watch them because I'm covering something, I DVR the game. And 9 out of 10 times I'll probably delete the DVR before I even get home because I know the score and it's not a good deal. That's it. But I'm never going to stop loving them.
I think it was in reference to like recruiting or NIL or something like that, which is that's just going to be the case for a lot of college fans out there. I mean, I do think there's going to be some attrition in some ways. Or maybe just less of the casual viewer. I don't know, just because of everything that's changed over the last few years. And maybe we don't even notice it. Maybe it's like the folks who boycotted the NFL and they still had 20 million people watching, practically every single game, or 15 million, 12 million, whatever it was. So maybe it's not something that ends up being all that obvious in the long run. But you do have to, I think, worry about that a little bit, because you have gone from, you were in the playoff 2 years ago, and you had this incredible coach who, like, you had no doubts about what he was capable of doing, and now he's gone. And now you have a guy who maybe you're not as sure about. And so there are a lot of questions surrounding them. Like, where did you put Cincinnati in your poll? It's hard to figure out where to put them, right? Probably towards the bottom, though.
Yeah,
because you just don't know. Like, is Emory Jones going to be great? Or, like, there's a lot of questions for them. So I understand the kind of worry, but it'll be fun to learn more about them as we move forward.
GMAC, Bearcat fans in general are expecting unrealistic expectations since Fickell got us in the playoffs. It's annoying. That's from a Cincinnati Bearcat fan.
Yeah.
I think that's realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
5:41. We're not done. One more segment to go. John Machota, theathletic.com. We're not far away from the Big 12 and other SEC, Pac-12, and ACC, and the Big 10 Media Days coming on in July. And by the way, NFL training camps start in about a month too, which is kind of frightening because that means football's coming down the tracks. That's good, and yet, man, I still want to have more time to enjoy the rest of the summer. This is 365 Sports. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. And right now, the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, $5,500 in total values, or you can get 2.9% financing. Think about that. Again, 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with $5,500 in total values, or that includes, by the way, the Jeep 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport, total values of $6,000, or again, you can get 10% off MSRP on the 2023 Jeep Compass, and $500 always available for any of the first responders. And Ram Trucks, always something there at Allen Samuels, 10% off MSRP on the new 2023 Ram, 1,500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or you get 2.9% financing for 72 months. And again, first responders, $500 in bonus cash. And then there's the Dodge, and we don't discuss them probably enough, but we can right now. The 2023 Dodge Challenger or the Dodge Charger, SXT, GT, or RT, total values of $2,000 and $500 first responders across the board. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. It's hot outside, and so are the deals at Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
John Machota, theathletic.com. John, I was just mentioning that, you have college football media days within the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. And, the NFL training camps are a month away, aren't they?
Yeah, just about. We got a little over 4 weeks, about 4.5 weeks until they report, and then I would say 5 weeks until we see pads on. But yeah, it goes by fast.
When you're there in Oxnard, eventually it's interrupted by games, preseason games. But how long of a stretch is that where you cover them when you're on the road, when you're gone from where you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
So every year it's a little bit different just because of whatever their preseason schedule is. So, for example, like this year, it sounds like what they're going to do is they're going to be out there for 3 weeks, and then they'll come back here for their first preseason game, fly back out there, and then do another week of training camp practices out there, which will amount to maybe 3 more practices before then they fly for their second preseason game. So I won't go back out there for that final week, for those final 2 or 3 practices. But I'll be there for the first 3 weeks, and then when they come back here for the first preseason game, then I'll just stay back here for that final week.
John, what's the general feel around Deuce Vaughn and when it comes to expectations and things like that? I mean, he's not a guy who was drafted, super early, obviously. He's not a guy who has the ideal size, but they had a connection, and hey, he was great in college. I saw on your timeline, Dak making some comments about him and, seeing him and learning about him, but just what's kind of your general feel for Deuce Vaughn's role and where things stand once he enters training camp?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the most, intriguing guys to watch at camp this year because of the fact that, he is the smallest NFL player I've ever seen. He is just so little. He's listed, I think, at 5'5", and maybe he's that. But, he's just a really small dude. And so I'm interested to see how they get him involved because there just really haven't been, after a while, since the Cowboys have really gotten a smaller player like that involved in the offense significantly. So, is he just, a third-string running back? Does he make enough plays where he works up to be Tony Pollard's primary backup? I really don't know, but the one good thing that you get out of being a running back is, especially a rookie taken in the 6th round, they're going to give him a ton of work in the preseason. So, when we're going into some of these preseason games, trying to find storylines and things like that, Dak won't be playing in some, and then Tony Pollard won't be playing. They'll rest a lot of their key guys, but Deuce Vaughn, each one of those games is going to be one of those on the top of your list of this has got to be a guy we just watch to see what he can do. And, Dak thinks he can make an instant impact. And if he plays like he did at Kansas State, I can see him doing the same too. I got to see it first because, the Cowboys just haven't had one of those offenses where they get a bunch of smaller backs involved in some, east-west passing games. So they say they can do it. I'm interested to see it.
Will he be one that is every time he does anything that people lose their mind because he's just kind of a unique player with his size and the ability to make people look silly?
Yeah, absolutely. My thing is with him is it just so if the offensive line's playing well, then everything will work itself out. There'll be creases, there'll be areas for him to get open and get into space. But I'm also interested in them scheming up some plays to get him in space, whether it be on like a short toss and things like that. And one of the reasons why I sit here and I go, I might sound like I'm being negative, but the reason why I kind of want to see it first before I believe it is because, there's a lot of talk of them doing that last year with Kevontae Turpin, and that never really materialized. And so now you're going to have Deuce Vaughn and Kevontae Turpin on the team, and Brandon Cooks is a smaller receiver. And so all of a sudden now all these smaller guys are going to get involved. It could be great. It could be huge. I know their opponents won't be expecting it because there's not a lot on tape of the Cowboys doing that. So that could be, to their advantage. And certainly, Deuce Vaughn's size will be to his advantage, but he's going to have to get out in space somewhere. There's going to have to be, areas where he's able to get out there and make some people miss. And so if he can do that, then by all means, then he's definitely going to have a spot on the team.
All right. So I know it's way too early for this. Mike McCarthy's calling plays. I asked you, I think, a week or two ago, how does that change up anything with him? What about the relationship with McCarthy and Dak? We know that Kellen Moore and Dak had a very close relationship. What about with McCarthy and Dak? Because Dak's one of those that's never going to throw pretty much anybody under the bus. I'm not saying he would with McCarthy, but what is that like in your opinion, or what do you expect?
Well, it's got to be as close as it's ever been. Just from their years together. But then you just look back to Mike McCarthy's first year. It's a pandemic. Dak ends up getting hurt. And then now these last 2 years, back-to-back 12-win seasons. This looks like it's building in the right direction, much like McCarthy's, first few years in Green Bay. And obviously when he was working early on with Aaron Rodgers in his career. And so now that he's going to be in those offensive meetings all the time, he's one installing the offense, calling the offense. They're going to have to, it has to work. It's one of those things where you saw it obviously worked early on with McCarthy and Rodgers. They had a lot of success, won a Super Bowl, but then towards the end, that was the number one thing that people talked about in Green Bay is that, Rodgers and McCarthy aren't seeing eye to eye, and, someone's going to have to go. They're going to have to change this thing up, and it's certainly not going to be Rodgers. And so, it's big. Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott have to have a good relationship. I don't see them having success if they don't, but they're going to be around each other a lot more this year than they ever have before.
So, in your opinion, with the East, with Philadelphia coming off the great run they had, they lose people, they gain some people. The Giants were better than anyone could have thought. Washington was 8-1. Who knows what's going to happen with them with Howell, the quarterback. But is the East going to be that competitive again where everybody, I can't imagine, but everybody is in that 500 or better range?
Yeah, I think it could be. That was certainly a surprise last year they got to that level. Maybe not. The Giants, obviously, because they had been down, but, they get a new coach, and it seems like that was the right hire. And now all of a sudden, Saquon Barkley was having some success, and Daniel Jones was playing some of his better ball. So I guess that was a little more. It was Washington. Just go back to that last regular season game and just the way Washington beat Dallas.
Yep.
Nobody would have expected that, and so. I think that there's a chance. I just think there's clearly three top teams in the NFC, the entire NFC, and that's the Eagles, Cowboys, and Niners. And then I think there's a drop-off to that next tier. And in that next tier, I would have the Giants in there, and then Washington would be clearly down towards the bottom there. But there's also that part of, maybe, they got Eric Bieniemy calling plays now. Maybe Washington being slept on is big for them. Maybe they can finally get healthy on their defense and they can surprise people. But I just feel like they're clearly the fourth team, and the Giants are clearly third, especially with the Giants having these issues right now with Saquon Barkley and Barkley not, being happy with them in terms of the contracts that they've offered him. So I just think it's clearly the Cowboys and Eagles. And if it isn't one of those two winning the division, I'll be very surprised. Because I can see one of the two maybe hitting up, a decent amount of injuries or something like that, but I can't see them both. I would be very surprised if one of those two teams aren't the one that wins the East.
My last question is Deron Bland, and then even at times, whenever he had a chance to get carries, Malik Davis seemed to always do something. Can they be as good as they were last year, or do you expect maybe them to level off?
Yeah, Bland is really interesting to me because, I'm stunned. He ended up leading the team in interceptions last year. I published on Monday on The Athletic. It's every year around this time, we do a survey of like 25, 30 questions to fans. And last year I had to write it. Who do you think will be second on the team in interceptions? Everybody knows it'll be Trayvon Diggs will have the most, but who will be second? And Deron Bland ended up with the most. So this year when I did the question, I'm like, well, just who do you think will have the most interceptions in the Cowboys? Because You got Bland, you got Diggs, you got Gilmore now. They're in a really good spot at that cornerback position, and I don't think Deron Bland has reached his ceiling at all. I mean, he's a very confident player, and he just seems to show up at all times. Malik Davis, I have a little bit more question mark there, but again, just like a lot with the Deuce Vaughn thing, I mean, they're not going to be Tony Pollard coming back 100%. They're not working him a lot in the preseason, let alone him coming back from that injury, him going into a year with a franchise tag. Like, they're not going to be working Tony Pollard at all in the preseason. So a guy like Malik Davis, I mean, there's going to be so many opportunities for him to show them, hey, don't go out and try and sign another back. I can handle this role. But if he can't handle that role and it looks like it's too big for him, that's when you could see the Cowboys potentially going out and trying to sign like a Leonard Fournette.
John, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate your time. We'll see you next week or talk to you next week. Have a great week.
You too, guys. Take it easy.
John Machota, theathletic.com, and a writer for the Cowboys job never, ever ends. Not even during any kind of a buffer zone, Yankees, Lakers, certain teams. That is just the case. All right. Thanks to Jack McKenzie, also Emery Winter tonight at 10:30, 365 Sports tonight on the CW. Emery will put all that together, and it'll be there tonight at 10:30. And also, don't forget, we're back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Craig Smoak, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We'll start working on tomorrow's guest list. Thanks to all of you who were a part of the chat today. We agreed to disagree, or so I hope we do. And it seems like that is the case every day, and yet we come right back and do it again. Garrett, great to have you back. Thank you very much. Garrett Ross is back running the mothership. I'm David Smoak.
For LSU.
Absolutely. Yeah, go home. You got to get home. Again, TCU lost today, 3-2 to Florida. They're out in Omaha. This is 365 Sports. Have a great night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI,